Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back for another Freaky Friday, right here on TFRlive.com. Truth Frequency Radio, where we give you protection from deception and where silence is consent. And can you handle our woo? I hope so, because we have not got one, we've not got two, but we've got many rabbit holes to dive down tonight. We will map the journey towards the woo. And to help me do that, as usual, I can't do it without the other two amigos of the woo crew. Look at them there. We've got Joe Joseph and we have Scotty Lopez. And of course, today we are simulcasting. We're going out on TFRlive.com, the home of Freaky Friday, iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn Radio apps, and on YouTube. And yes, I remembered to press live this time. How we doing, guys? We all good? We raring to go?
Yes, absolutely.
Raring to go, yeah.
You sound very ready for this one, Joe.
I am.
How's your week been, Joe? I've missed you. We've missed you.
Very busy, dude. Very busy, but productive. And here we are, Friday night.
Yeah, we've missed your witty rapport all week, you know. I'm looking forward to going down the rabbit hole with you. And of course, Scotty, back again. And I promise not to stifle you, Scott. I'll ungag you, man.
I guess I wasn't aware that I was being stifled. That,
and nor was I aware that I was the policer of the truth.
I guess so, but we've all learned something, you know. And now we know, and knowing is half the battle, right?
So they say. But of course, it just wouldn't be Freaky Friday if I didn't go into the Wookiee cave. And we've got the TFR chat room that I encourage exactly everyone to go and check out, TFRlive.com/chat. So let me just pull that up right here, right now. And we start off with yours truly. Yes, I'm hanging in the TFR, not literally hanging, chilling out in the TFR chat room. We've got my girlfriend, Sophia, the AI. Yes, I do have one of these trans species relationships. Don't judge me or don't be hateful. And then we have a fellow host on the network, Lucky. Check her out every Monday and Wednesday with Dr. Brooks Agnew. Yes, the Dr. Brooks Agnew. Him and Lucky do Quantum Connections right after the Kev Baker show. So then, let's get into the roll call of Wookiees. We've got Cold Brews, Bam, the Wookiee, Spread Love 911, Silimo, Geordie. Who knew Geordie Rose would one day end up chilling out in the TFR chat room? I don't know, we converted him, Joe. We've got Carol in there, Kenny, all the way from Belgium, Andrea, all the way from down under New Zealand, Mark, Gentle Chatter, Mysterious Local. I dare say we'll bump into a few mysterious locals on the way down the rabbit hole tonight. George Arinio and another mysterious local. Two mysterious locals. Are you the quantum mysterious local? So there you go, guys. There you have it. That is the chat room over at TFR. So, Joe, it wouldn't be another day in the Matrix if it wasn't for another apocalyptic story and yet another end of the world. What's happening, Joda? Yes, indeed.
Yes. What's happening?
We set this up before the show. Come on, man. Come on.
End of the world. This end of the world, they say, has happened time and time again, Kev. How many ends of the world have we seen? Just out of curiosity.
Right now I feel like I'm at the end of my radio world.
You are. Yes, yes. End of the world.
Oh.
Bible scholars shock claim apocalyptic asteroid strike is prophesied. This is huge, Kev.
Again, yes, it is huge, Joe. Again. Because, I mean, how many times have we been here, Joe? And as we'll come to see, some of the same characters time and time again that play into this.
Oh.
But, asteroid strike has been prophesized.
Yes.
Now, this is Tom Horn, and Tom Horn has been around for a long time. I remember him.
Now, you remember back in the day. Remember when...
I remember the prophecy of the popes. That was the first time I heard him on Coast to Coast, you know?
Yeah, and then of course, you know, he did that work with Chris Putnam that exposed the Vatican.
Yep.
Chris Putnam being a former priest. And then he kind of dove into prophecy.
Yep.
And everything that Tom Horn has put out has been, at least in my mind, you know, at least to some extent legit. I think he went a little overboard with the Lucifer telescope thing, but still it was kind of interesting that you have a Lucifer device within a Vatican telescope. You know, it's kind of weird that it's one of those associations that make you wonder what it is they're doing and why they're doing it.
Just to be specific there, like Joe says, I mean, that Lucifer device that we've heard about, when you actually drill down into the details of that, it is next to the Vatican astronomy. Where is it? Mount Graham?
Mount Graham.
Yeah.
In Arizona, right.
And you've got two telescopes side by side in the University of Arizona. You might say they're one complex. And they've actually got the Lucifer device, but most people will say that the Vatican own the Lucifer device. It's semantics in the end of the day.
It really is semantics at the end of the day, because here you have one of the few stargates, the known stargates of Native American lore. And, you know, even today, if you talk to the Native Americans in that area, I think it's the Aztecs, not the Aztecs, Navajo. They'll go and tell you that that Mount Graham is a stargate and has been and is active. So then you say, well, does it really matter whose building it's in?
Yeah.
The fact that this whatever is on Mount Graham, a known stargate, looking for, I think it's like it can see into different spectrums that
it's looking in the infrared.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that we can't see, you know, with the naked eye. So,
well, see, the reason I'm kind of not usually I would be cracking jokes and saying not another end of the world scenario, right?
Right.
But because I look at all sides of things, and in particular this asteroid, and I know whether you go along with my thinking or not, you guys remember, and I'm sure a lot of the audience remember, not once, but 2 or 3 times now, we've spoke about how I feel maybe, just maybe this new age, this apocalypse we're in, the revealing, we're getting ready to go into something new, some new cycle, and it takes us right into that global government, conspiracy, Illuminati, ooga boogas. But I've been saying to you guys, haven't I, for a couple of weeks now, just watch out for maybe this asteroid card. Now I know this is Tom Horn saying this.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason that I'm I can't exactly start laughing at this one, because wouldn't this fit what I've been talking about? Say, as we go on to find in this actual article here, Tom Horn, I think he's putting something on it like 2029, I believe, 10 years. And if the powers that be were to tell us if something 10 years out, we need to do something, then you have everyone pulling together because we're all facing the same threat. And then if you're looking for the military-industrial complex to still have a way of making money now that everyone's coming together, well, you've done it. Because you can weaponize space for 10 years until the cows come home, or at least till this asteroid that you've told people about either comes to fruition or not. And end of the day, it's the same thing, same outcome, right? Weaponization of space, further towards a global government. It's a good scenario. I'm not saying this is the one, but it fits. It ticks the boxes.
the thing with this is we have so many of these people that come out and be like, oh, the asteroid is going to hit. It's going to be the end of the world, And you have this happening over and over again. And it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, right? What happens when somebody actually does come across maybe some evidence that there really might be a real asteroid strike? And then at that point, everyone's like, this is just another one of those.
You're already there.
End of the world situations. Yeah, exactly. And then, oops, it really does hit, right?
Yep.
And so that's the problem with all of this it's like the boy who cried wolf. And then by the time something really does, that there really is a problem and maybe there really is going to be an asteroid that hits, nobody's going to take it seriously. Nobody's going to believe it, right? And then
many won't. And really, it's only the people that have been preparing that would have any sort of chance for whatever they prepared for. But
we know the government probably wouldn't tell anybody because they haven't told us a lot of things that have happened, right?
Right. They don't tell us when they're gassing us, running experiments on us. So they're certainly not going to tell us that we're all going to die.
Yeah, they always use the excuse of, well, we don't want to panic.
Yeah,
we don't want to cause a panic. So that's my rub with all of these things is that you just keep seeing these people that keep.
Yeah, it's like we're not going to know anyway. And even if that were the case, I would think that they would have that under wraps a lot more than this. That's all I'm saying is that I don't think it would be as well known as.
Well, let's get into what he says, right? It says, however, biblical scholar Tom Horn sensationally claimed to the Express that Apophis, just for anyone who doesn't know what Apophis is, it's this massive asteroid they've been talking about, feels like forever. And it says it's a 370-meter wide near-Earth orbit space rock that continues to pose a destructive threat. It says there's a possibility of 2.7% that it could strike Earth in 2029. And then it goes on, there's another one in 2036. And NASA give it varying odds, very, very low odds. However, as Tom Horn says, he's sensationally claimed to the express.co.uk that Apophis could strike in less than 10 years from now, marking the end of the world eerily on Friday the 13th. Just to add to the woo, he said the asteroid Apophis has a far greater chance of impacting Earth in 2029 than they're letting on. And you have to add in there, let's just say it is happening. Exactly. They would never let on, right? But that doesn't mean that it is happening. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes,
I mean, that now that is something I could probably get on board with, is that maybe there is a higher chance, like maybe a little bit probability than
but
what
they're playing it down.
They're playing it down. So, okay, I can see that. I can see that.
So it goes on to say the claim comes ahead of the release of the Wormwood Prophecy, a documentary which Mr. Horn promises to lay bare the apparent evidence that he has uncovered. And Mr. Horn believes the Bible warned of such events. He said, I intend to disclose facts that are stranger and scarier than most people can comprehend, and it's going to shake the public to the bone. This involves a cover-up of the highest order by national space agencies, including NASA, and chief technology experts and working scientists agree with me. But what is more concerning is this was prophesied in the Bible for the end times. And the book of Revelations is the final book of the Christian Bible, which tells the story of a man called John on the island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea, addressing a letter to the 7 churches of Asia. And then it goes on to talk about that. He then describes a series of prophetic visions, including figures such as the 7-headed dragon, the serpent, and the beast, culminating in the second coming of Jesus, and therefore the end of the world. Ooga booga, booga booga. Chapter 8 of the text reads, when he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour, And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Then the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and a third and all the green grass was burned up. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood, a third of living creatures in the sea died, and a third of ships were destroyed.
So you think about that, Kev. If a meteor was to hit, or a rock would come in and hit something of that size into the ocean, you're talking about a massive tidal wave.
Yeah, big time. And think about the fact that you've got that, is it El Hierro, that island, and is it in the Canaries, where the rock face, the cliff, at any time that could come off the side, and that could produce the same kind of thing that we're talking about here, because
you could actually have a chain of events based on the one,
Yeah, definitely. And again, listen, I ain't telling anybody that this is the one. Not at all. None of us know. And if you're religious and definitely Christian, what is it they say? No man knows the hour. Or now, more politically correct to say, no man, woman, thee, they, it, though, I don't know, all the rest of them, right? The Bible's not very woke. We'll need to have a woke version of the Bible, Joe.
A woke version of the Bible?
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll come out with a different version here soon to sate people's need to be politically correct biblically.
Well, what do you make of this? I mean, you're more well-versed, pardon the pun.
So he's right as far as prophecy's concerned. I mean, I think that's fairly accurate. I personally would like to see this documentary to kind of gain more of an understanding, what he's talking about. But I suppose you could, you could have something like this happen. Typically, though, and this is what I've come to find out over the years doing this stuff, is it never happens the way you envision it. And to me, an asteroid is just too, I don't know. Everybody sees an asteroid coming as being one of those end of the world type of scenarios.
But we rarely see asteroids coming, actually, when you think about it. Think of the ones that we only find out.
No, but it's hyped up. It's very hyped up. You know what I mean? Like, there's movies. Hollywood's fascinated with it, and because we've had a lot of blockbuster movies that have to do with intercepting meteors to.
Isn't that in itself programming us for that eventuality, though?
That's what I'm saying. So is it legit or is it engineered? Is this a campaign to do something like you're talking about?
I think if it's
bringing
legit,
people together.
I think if it's legit, Scott, they wouldn't tell us.
Right.
Do you know? Does that make sense? Because. All right, you're going to be bringing people.
They would protect that information at all
Well,
costs.
what do you maybe think that we would see them doing? Do you think maybe they would be like trying to get off planet? Do you think they'd be building bunkers? Do you think they would have seed vaults? Oh, wait a minute, shit.
Wait,
pardon me, but they've got that.
Yeah, and look at how fast and with such urgency they're saying they've got to get to Mars.
Yeah.
Weird.
So isn't the timeline to get to Mars around 2025, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this Apophis is supposed to be around 2029. So you got maybe another 5-year buffer zone between us reaching Mars and then maybe
probably to make a couple trips, load out, get as much crap over there as they can. I don't know.
I mean, it's just interesting. It is very interesting, and like you, Joe, I now I'm interested in wanting to see this documentary or this film that he's putting together, because
I want to see where he's coming from.
Yeah, and I want to see the evidence that he lays out. Right? What did he research and what did he really dig into to have him come to this conclusion?
Well,
because
I know he was on Hagman recently, Scott. So I think that was about a 2-hour appearance with Steve Quayle. So I think if anyone is interested in this line of kind of research, I would say that's one place to go. I'm sure he'll have been on Coast as well, Scott, because this is big. This is good woo, right?
This is woo of the highest order.
Yes, it's yes. This is a top tier creme de la creme, and the thing is that, like Joe said, I mean, he's provided good information in the past. So I mean, he's not like one of these characters like Kev is about to pull up here just now, but I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see the evidence that he presents, because
it goes on to say here, it says chapter 8 reads, when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half hour, and I saw the 7 angels stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Then the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Notice that it's like all the green grass was burned up. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees, but all of the green grass is burned up. So that to me is pretty significant, you know. And what does that mean?
Acid rain.
You know, could be acid rain, you know, something like that. There's a lot of fallout from, say, an impact of that nature.
I watched a thing where they described pretty much what happened when the meteor that took out the dinosaurs, supposedly, right? The one that hit in the Yucatan Peninsula. They kind of went through like a play-by-play of what actually occurred as it hit the earth and how it basically unfolded.
Yeah.
And a lot of what they're describing in there is very similar. They said that the Gulf of Mexico, the water around there, it turned like a rusty red color.
Yeah, I would probably imagine there's a lot of iron oxide or whatever in there to make it. Yeah.
So when it says that the ocean turned
a
to
third of
blood,
the sea turned to blood. It makes sense.
That the acidic content, you know, from the asteroid or, you know, asteroid strike would cause the ocean to change color.
Yeah.
And then all,
of course, it would kill the
sediment. Yeah, and it would kill everything, obviously. You know. So very interesting. And
it is.
You know, you have that shock wave and all of the debris lifted into the atmosphere. It would, you know, everything around there would burn out, and it would kill all the trees and kill all the vegetation.
And then it goes on to say the third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and the springs of water. And the name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and people died from the waters that became bitter. And interestingly enough, you know, if you have some sort of major impact like that, it would probably affect aquifers.
That's radiation poisoning.
You know, but what if it's radiation poisoning?
It is radiation.
Well, somebody else in the chat room, and this is a good point, you know, wormwood in Russian actually translates as Chernobyl.
Chernobyl. Yeah, exactly right. So think about that. Now, you have a meteor impact. A meteor impact is going to be devastating on a global scale, something of that magnitude. Instantly, you're going to have meltdowns of all these nuclear plants. You're going to have all these meltdowns occur. What's going to happen to these things? These cores are going to go into the freaking, into the aquifers. They're going to poison the water. You're going to have fallout from these meltdowns. So you have to understand that there's a lot of collateral things that happen if you have an event take place where something of that magnitude goes down. They've built too many of these stupid plants on fault lines, for God's sake.
There's not even a
you know?
Yeah, you do. You have to think about the domino effect of what would what would happen, right? Power grids would go down, and like Joe said, all of these reactors would melt down, and there would just be so much collateral damage and so much of a domino effect that we don't even really know exactly the extent of how devastating it would be.
No, you really don't. But you have to think that it would be, and we have prior precedent that shows that it would be pretty damn devastating, because now we've got Fukushima to look back on and continue to look at. That's continuing to dump radiation. You've got Chernobyl inside this gigantic sarcophagus. Of course, Chernobyl translates to wormwood.
That's our
Don't worry, folks. When we come back after the break, we'll be selling you our wormwood protection pack.
That's right. So
right
you
here.
have your wormwood protection pack.
We don't just like to scare you. We like to prepare you. We're only joking. We don't roll like that, but we know some that do, and we'll be highlighting them after the break. Don't go anywhere. It's about to get really freaky. Ah, yes, end of the world scenarios with the 3 ghosts of the apocalypse.
And then, of course, Tokyo 2020. Let's go to the Olympics. Brought to you by Fukushima. That's right. We're growing all the produce in Fukushima prefecture to suck all the radioactive particles into the vegetables and then feed it to you while you're having a good
There was
time.
me just worried about the trans athletes that would be there, but I didn't even factor in the Godzillas and mutated athletes that may be participating as well.
Dude.
Yes, a
I mean,
big shout
what a
out.
great way of disposing of your radioactive material. Just grow the vegetables, have it absorb it from the land into the vegetables, feed it to these asshats, and then have them go and eat it and consume it. Oh, yeah, they'll shit it out when they leave.
Cone hats, please. Cone hats, please, sir. Big shout out to everyone at YouTube. Yes, of course. We're on the break right now. We'll be going back to Freaky Friday in a moment. Brent Thomas, right after this show. Don't go anywhere. You go from the abnormal into the paranormal. And I think, guys, after this start to the show, I think we should go over maybe a few end-of-the-world scenarios. Let's go full Ooga Booga. Come on, let's do it, man.
We haven't gone full Ooga Booga in
Exactly.
some time.
Well, I mean, we've got
Let's go.
pathogens. Yeah, we can look at the pathogens. We can look at solar flares. So many things to get the fear factor going right
the
here.
possibilities are endless.
But the only thing is, folks, unlike most of the other people who sometimes push this, sometimes we don't offer you some kind of fix-all remedy at the end of it. You don't pay there's no.
We're serious about this stuff. We truly are. However, we're also realistic about this stuff as well. So it's just.
Well, like that one, Patrick, in the chat room, trans eugenic Olympians 2020.
That's a good one.
That's pretty apt, brother. I'm telling you. Yes, so we've got lots more to get into besides, but I'm liking this. And of course, we'll be catching up with some of our favourite YouTubers when we come back live. Seriously, Scott. Absolutely seriously.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
I am, dude. I am. Yes, indeed. You know, like I say, there's an end-of-the-world scenario every day, folks. But like Scott pointed out, you got to be very careful you don't end up the boy, the girl, the whatever, that cried wolf, and you get fed up looking like me. That's the way I feel sometimes when I see these stories. But at the back of my mind, there's always a niggling voice saying, what if? Just what if,
Because the thing is that the possibility is there, right? So you have to sit there and go, well, what if? Because things happen.
Scott, don't go full Elenin on it like a lot of us did. Where we were getting ready to run to the hills and things. It started Elenin, ELE, extinction level event. I was there.
That was so embarrassing. That was just absolute. Oh, man. Man, that was like textbook. See, because by that time I had basically seen just about everything there was to see, and that was just.
Get ready with the Wookiee, Scott.
Yes.
But isn't there almost a War of the Worlds aspect to this corner of the information that gets put out? People want almost like an infotainment aspect to it almost. It's an adrenaline rush
You
when you
know
think
what?
you're onto
And
something
also,
like this.
people are wanting. What does that say
Here we go.
about?
Here we go. There he is. The Wookiee is in the house. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to this week's Freaky Friday right here on TFRLive.com with me, Kev Baker. We've got Scotty Lopez in the house and Joe Joseph as well, making up what is otherwise known as the Woo Crew. Yes, and this week we're going old school. We're going back to scaring the willies out of everyone. Yes, indeed. It's the fear factor. End of the world scenarios. Only we don't do it to cause fear. We're just discussing some of the stories that are out there right now, some of the stories that have come and gone, and looking at some of the ways that people use this to their own advantage as well. And in my time looking at information, I'm an infoholic. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous or something. Hi, my name's Kev, and I've been addicted to info for like years now. So yeah, I appreciate it. I accept it. And they say that's, to be halfway to beating it. But the point I bring this up is over the time doing this and being a content creator on YouTube, I know what people want and I know what people like. And when it comes to selling end of the world scenarios, it doesn't take much work. And some of my bigger videos out there have all been kind of themed along that kind of topic. I remember doing a video with Anthony Patch about the opening of the seventh seal with CERN and Saturn and everything else. And not to speak badly about that show, I still stand by everything that was in that show. Some of it we done the science of CERN, other we went into the theoretical about maybe reconnecting Saturn, stuff like that. But I know from the analytics that people really like that stuff. And there was other videos as well along that kind of theme, that genre, that gets maybe 5 times, 10 times the traffic. And it's almost as if there is a part within all of us that when it comes to information like that, when you think you're onto something that's really, the governments are hiding, but somebody's found out this and you're getting little breadcrumbs of information from here and some other sources, and it's all tying together, it gets really exciting. I've been there. And the adrenaline gets going and you feel a part of something and you're waiting for the next podcast, the next time a certain speaker speaks on that topic and a little bit more of the picture develops and it's all building usually towards a date in the future. And I get it, the adrenaline, it does, it gives you that dopamine hit. And there's some people take advantage of that. Now, that's not to make light of the real threat that some of these stories may or may not contain. But people know that stuff like that, the fear factor, it does, whether it's people wanting infotained, whether it's that dopamine hit. I don't know what it is, Scott, but it's definitely something. And it's not to speak badly about people. I've been there. It's an observation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things to where it's like people have this fascination. I think it's like people want to know. People are afraid of the unknown, right, Kev? People want to be comforted in the fact that they think that somebody knows, and that they can know at some level.
Thank you. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so people just fear the unknown, and so when somebody shows up and is like, "Hey, I have the answer," I'm able to decipher what's going on and figure all of this out and put your mind at ease, then people are like, "Oh, okay." Even if it's something scary like the end of the world or whatever, people would rather be comforted in at least knowing, at least thinking they know when it's going to happen, right?
And thinking they know that something that other people don't know about. That gives it almost that special kind of inside knowledge feel. You're part of something quite unique.
Yeah, exactly. It is, and it's kind of, in a way, it's that dopamine hit too, right? It's like ooh, I'm part of something. It's also kind of like identity. I don't want to say identity politics.
No,
but
you want to be part of that group. You want to be, you're accepted then because you're into the same thing as these people are. And I get it. And Scott, perfect example, for the adrenaline and the dopamine stuff. Remember I used to do the work, the security guard, walking about for hours on end, patrolling. When somebody like Tom Horn or one of the other speakers would be on, whatever, Stan Deo sometimes. And folks, I'm not criticizing any of these people, okay? They've done really good research, and that's what made it so exciting. And I could walk around for 2 hours, Scott, and it would go like that. And I'd be hanging off every single word. Every time it got to a break in a podcast, I'd be like, come on, fast forward. It's exciting. I get that. But there are people out there who'll take advantage of that, Scott. And they'll tell them that it's the end of the world every second day. And when one failed end of the world date comes and goes, it's okay. Because there's always many more dates. In fact, there's a full calendar to pick from. And it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. And at some point, you have to break that cycle, folks. You have to get out of that mindset and get back to looking to what you were doing originally. Looking for the information, getting closer to the truth about reality, about what really is going on in the world. And again, you can still dip your toe back into the infotainment, Scott. No harm there.
No. It's just like with everything else. It needs to be done in moderation, right? You can't get just too wrapped up into it where you become completely obsessed with it, because then that's where you fall into the trap, right? And the thing is a lot of that, I think, also it keeps people from looking into other things that need to be looked into, right? It's one of those traps that it sucks a bunch of people in, and that's all they focus on when they could be focusing their attention on other things as well. It's almost like a distraction, right? There are many other things going on that deserve people's attention, but sitting here and when people constantly focus on, oh, when's the next asteroid, or when's this asteroid gonna hit, when's the end of the world gonna be, and all of that
breaking.
Well, you know what though, it really speaks to the desperation a lot of people feel about the end. It's almost like a lot of people are yearning for it, more so than you would think. You know what I mean? Or at least it seems in my in my humble opinion that there are more people looking forward to the end, because think about it, in many ways we all have our crosses to bear, but life is not that bed of roses that when you're a teenager you think that it is in most cases, unless of course you grow up hard. And many more people now are growing up hard because of that chasm in wealth. There's a lot of things that are happening. That's why, Kev, when I look at like where we're at from the standpoint of all of these things that are almost coming to this intersection at the same time, they're all coming to this one almost singularity, if you will. I just don't see how humanity makes it through without some sort of cataclysm. We just don't. Number one, it's cyclical. We've seen it happen before. And number two, I just don't see with the technology thing, the technology component, you have the natural disaster component just from the cyclical nature of our solar system, the way the sun interacts with the earth. That's on a cycle. We're getting close to that.
That's the thing. It's like I was telling Kev earlier. I mean, the chance is there, right? I mean, at some point it is going to happen. it's not a question of if,
Yeah.
it's when. And
then what?
it's
It's more a question of what, you know?
and like I was telling them, people fear the unknown. So it's
That's right.
comforting to them when somebody comes out there and claims that they know, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm afraid of the end of the world happening at some point. So when somebody can tell me that they know when and how it's going to happen, it puts people at ease at some level.
And maybe they feel that they can prepare better for it, whatever that preparation is.
Is
At
there
least then
something? Is there something in that ancestral memory of the last time as well?
Maybe.
I think
And
so.
many other times that makes that information appealing, though, right? You know, you don't even have to be into
I think so.
conspiracy per se to like a documentary on like possible ends of the world or history channels or what happens 50 years after humans. You know, you don't have to be an infoholic. You could be, air quotes, sound asleep, just Joe blogs. And that appeals to people. And I often wonder why. What is it about that? That should be something that scares the life out of you. You shouldn't want to know about things like that. At the end of the day, there's nothing we can do if it's the end of the world, but there's something appealing about it. You just look at the views. And of course, that's a super chat for our radio listeners out there.
Joe, are Coca-Cola paying you? Brian likes Pepsi X.
Yes, Joe, sponsored by a really, really dodgy drinks company tonight. Yes, indeed. Well spotted, DJ. But yes, there is one character out there who's talking about another end of the world scenario, and it's one that keeps coming back time and time and time again. And Joe, you asked me to check him out before the show tonight, and that's your friend Pastor Paul. What do you make of his way of going about prophesizing the end of the world? And he's muted up. That's what Joe thinks about it.
No, that's good. I thought I pressed it. No, that's more that, what do you call it? Like, that preparedness gospel, if you will. I don't
The
know what
gospel
else to call
according
it.
to the prepper?
Yeah, it's like the gospel according to Paul Bunyan. Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. They always have something for sale. It's just the way. Hey, you think about this, though. Pastor Begley, Nibiru collision course. Blah! But could this idea of an asteroid impact be a deflection for Nibiru's coming? And that's the real danger. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Nibiru's a threat?
I think there is some object out there. I think there is. Now, whether I think it's impending doom on its way in, that's another thing altogether. And no, I don't think that. And here's my reasons why. I would think we would hear amateur astronomers talking about, big strangeness like perturbations in some of the planets out there. And again, we don't need to rely on NASA or any government agency for this. There's big independent telescopes. There's amateurs with absolutely cracking telescopes nowadays in their back garden. So I would be expecting to see something like that. If it was really close, I'd expect to see interactions with the sun if it was coming in that way. Do I think something's out there, though? Yeah, call it Planet 9. Maybe it's that thing that Caltech are onto. And again, you have to go back and look at what... I know Sitch in some of his work, some people very critical of him, but there's certainly ancient writings that seem to point towards something coming from the heavens, right? And that gets you into the realms of the Anunnaki and everything else. We've spoke on this show about the potential for maybe some genetic manipulation on our DNA at one time or another. Not saying that proves it, but it certainly goes in line with that. Do they arrive on another star system, Nemesis, this thing? I don't know. But I do believe there probably are things out there, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that there is something in a weird orbit that crosses through our solar system, in this cycle and probably wreaks havoc, as it comes through. But when is that going to come through? Well, we really don't know. It's tough list.
We've got another one.
Ian Wright spoke of Rogan and aliens on TV tonight.
There you go, talk of aliens on TV. Joe Joseph jumping in a super chat as well. Yes, indeed.
What do you call a female dinosaur who loves other female dinosaurs? A licholotopus. Brown chicken, brown cow. Love your DJ Bison.
Dearie, Joe Joseph, eh? I trust you to absolutely lower the tone, sir. Lower the tone.
No, but yeah, I think there's an object that crosses through the solar system in a cycle and wreaks havoc, and we just don't know when. I don't think we can really put a date on when that's coming in. And is it the Planet 9 that they're observing now? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not really on board with that being Nibiru. Nibiru. Yeah. And but here's my question to you guys. What is your favorite end of the world scenario? What is the one that really gets you or hooked you in or whatever?
Man,
the one that really worries me is a pathogen, either man-made or natural. Because one of those things, when
like a pandemic type of thing?
Yeah. When that gets going, you know, even just the smallest of meteorites coming in, one of these amazing light shows that turns the sky all bright, and, you know, maybe just something on the surface of that, like, you know, panspermia, the transfer of something. And that then, you know, if that took hold somehow, I don't know, maybe it could, maybe it couldn't, but that for me, Scotty, Joe, but that, oof, I tell you, and like I say, whether it's man-made or natural, it doesn't matter, because it's the same result, right? You'd have medical martial law, you'd have the government getting clamped down, but at the same time, you'd have a real and present danger, you know?
I think to your point, and I'll go even more broad, I think it's interesting how incredibly fragile society really is.
And yet we're still going.
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't take much to cause a collapse or a breakdown of society. I'll give you an example, because you saw that a couple of years back when the EBT system went out, like across 5 states. And man, you want to talk about craziness. They emptied the shelves in all of the supermarkets in those states within like 2 hours. The common thought was, whenever an end of the world scenario hits, you got about 3 days till all the food is out. 3 days. It was 2 hours from an EBT failure, because people thought that the EBT system was out and was going to be out for a while.
Wasn't it right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Came out about the government stockpiling all the guns.
Yeah, and then of
ammo?
course all the guns and ammo news came out when they said, "Oh, by the way, the government's stockpiling guns and ammo."
Even the Department of
and
Education.
even and that's everybody freaked out, and they started getting all the food, and it was 2 hours, and everything, the shelves were totally bare, empty. 2 hours. So the idea that you have all this time is not true. First of all, it's not a true statement. But it also goes to show you that just the thought of an EBT system being down caused a mass panic. Sometimes you have every time you have weather now, weather has been hyped up because fear sells. So, you know, you may have a hardware store out here in Massachusetts that may be having a hard time getting numbers. So this winter, you know, maybe he strikes a deal and throws a couple thousand the local TV weather stations way, so that, you know, just kind of hype up this next snowstorm a little bit, you know, so there people buy some more salt, buy some more shovels. And then, you know, weather's unpredictable. I mean, the one occupation where you can be right half the time and still keep your job. You know.
So Joe, what end of the world scenario do you like to entertain as being
Boy, I would say
Anything with a flood in a boat.
anything with a flood. No, because
You've done that one.
I don't know. I would have to say something that goes along the lines of a cataclysmic event, whether it be a pole shift or a meteor, something along those lines that just cause that cascading type of scenario where you have the nuclear meltdowns. That's the thing is that's another misconception that people think in that kind of scenario that you're able to live off the land and everything's going to be, and that's just not.
There he is. He's back. I'm back. He's back in like kind of intermittent live time, Scott. What about
so mine that I like to
just keep going.
Mine that I like to entertain is Yellowstone.
Yellowstone?
And we haven't heard about Yellowstone in a long time.
You know what? That's a good one. That's a good one too. That's another one of those natural disaster type of things that could have a cataclysmic impact, where you might have a meltdown or two. And then that's the one thing I was going to get to is that people think, oh, it's going to be okay. We'll just live off the land and all this stuff. But no, you won't. Because the land's going to be toxic. If there is an event like that, a Yellowstone, a meteor, anything that would affect the United States in any way, the Earth is screwed.
But you see, these kind of end of the world things, they're almost like end of the world tropes, aren't they? Because I just showed there, I typed in Yellowstone, and about 3 stories down, we get to like Yellowstone volcano. Researcher claims big danger threatens to plunge Earth into an ice age. So these things are always. Talk about cyclical. Every week these stories come and go. It's hard,
And if one person's not covering it, the other person is. So they're probably all looking to see, hey, it's my turn this week on Yellowstone. Get off. That kind of thing.
Well, I had said that I hadn't heard Yellowstone being talked about very, very much lately, and here we go. Kev pulls it up, and I guess it's still being talked about. But I think this is one of those things to where, like Joe said, it's going to be something out of left field. Like everybody's going to be focusing on the asteroid and then boom, Yellowstone's going to go off. Or everybody's going to be focusing on Yellowstone and boom, some like unknown underwater volcano somewhere.
It's going to be something that we have absolutely no clue it's coming. That's the thing is that I just don't see us seeing the.
So let me ask this question. Before we go to the break. And again, this is purely speculation.
Of course, yeah.
But what odds do you put on natural cataclysm versus man-made, engineered, like purposely done by the powers?
I will give it a 70-30. I will say a 70% chance that it is natural and a 30% chance that we do something that man does it.
I'm going to go the reverse and say 30-70.
Oh, okay.
I would as well, only because, like Joe said, life, civilization is so precarious. It's such a fine balance. Anything could come along and tip that balance at any time. Yet we're still here. We're still here plodding on. And that's the only reason, Scott, I give the man-made more chance. It could be either.
I think we tend to overestimate our abilities. You know what I mean? Like we tend to think, oh, man is doing all this. Man is going to cause all of this cataclysm, and we do have the ability. I mean, we have nukes. We have a lot of things that can cause problems. But time and time again, nature tends to kind of bitch slap us and let us know who's really in charge. And
it's true.
And that in the grand scheme of things, when you look at humans, we are nothing but just a small blip, a tiny speck of pretty much nothingness in the cosmos, and that we can be snuffed out at any moment by natural forces. And so I think we tend to overestimate what we're,
You see, Scott, this is why I am so on board with people like Elon Musk and all the rest of them that want to digitize us all, because, hey, who cares? Once we're uploaded to the cloud, the cosmic cloud, we'll all be cool, right? We'll all be singing Kumbaya in a virtual world where everything's good, and it's a land of digital milk and honey, Joe. Yes, indeed. With
yes,
the
the
AI
utopian land
godhead
of
ruling
milk and
us all.
honey AI.
Yes, indeed. No, I don't, folks, obviously, I hope you picked up on my sarcasm there. I hope to goodness you did. But when we come back after the break, 1 hour down, 2 hours to go right here on Freaky Friday. Yes, very good. Very good. It's actually quite a while since we've had a talk about the various scenarios. What about the kill shot from the sun? Will we have a look at now that we're on the break? Now that we're on the break, we'll take a quick look at some of the. We need to have like a seriously. Come on, we went to Begley, but we need to listen to a bit of it. Come on.
Is that the wormwood?
Are you serious? Are you serious? And I mean this with all my heart. Are you serious?
No, it's not actually, but we'll go back to the wormwood one. I just want that. I knew that one had a really good start.
You just got to go back to the wormwood, because I'm sure he's going to say that too. Oh, breaking. Everything's breaking.
Welcome to the coming apocalypse. Evangelist and pastor Paul Begley will take you on a journey into the end times prophecy. He'll examine current world events and explain how they relate to the end times. For decades, Pastor Begley has provided people...
Isn't that what we do, though? Look at current events and tie them into the end times.
And what do we do it for?
Because we
have a duty. He does it for the wrong reasons.
I do it because I've got a passion for the info, and yes, and we've got a responsibility to give the information to the listeners, not to tell them what to think, but to give them a chance to think for themselves.
I just can't get over that intro, though. I mean, it's all
the coming apocalypse
all over the world.
Welcome to the coming apocalypse with Pastor Begley.
KTIT. Giving you the best apocalypse in town.
Understanding of today's world events from a biblical perspective. Now here's your host, Pastor Paul Begley.
Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you guys seriously here? Are you here? What? Welcome to the coming apocalypse. I'm Pastor Paul Begley. We're going to have a powerful broadcast. Mike from around the world is going to be here. Nibiru and collision course. Are you serious? Something biblical is definitely going on with the signs.
Oh, boy.
So that's why I don't have 330,000 subs. Yeah, that's why I don't have
what?
That's why I don't have 330,000 subscribers.
Right underneath. Don't forget, noblegoldinvestments.com.
Of the second coming of Christ. Guys, fair use tonight. In good faith, this work contains fair use of copyrighted, non-copyrighted images from the public domain and the web for the non-commercial, non-profit, educational purposes only. This broadcast is free of charge.
The second coming of Christ, brought to you by noblegoldinvestments.com and TrumpCoin 2020.
To everybody out there that wants to watch. Matter of fact, guys, at any time, if you're trying to find me in America, as Commander-in-Chief, that's exactly what he's done. For true Americans, little PBT,
Yeah, we can check that out further. I thought you'd be talking about Nibiru more, but that's Pastor Paul. That's Pastor Paul, folks. Love him or hate him, you know, he's got an audience. Serious? Definitely, yeah. And again, like we say, one of these times, one of these characters is going to get it right.
Well, a broken clock's right twice a day, Kev.
Absolutely.
And I got to say, the kill shot from the
He's a
sun.
big
That's
fan,
another one.
aren't you?
The kill shot from the sun. That's another one I like too.
Yeah, I do like that one. Yeah, yeah.
I knew he was a closet Begley fan.
Who?
Kevin.
Oh, here we go, Scotty. Get the Wookiee ready. Here
Are
we
you
go, son.
serious?
Are you serious?
Here we go.
It sounds all too good. You've been practicing it.
Oh, yes, indeedy. Hour number 2 for all of you right here on TFRlive.com. Simulcasting, going out on so many different platforms. iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn Radio apps. Loads more that I probably don't know about. And, of course, over at YouTube as well on the Kev Baker Show channel. And don't forget, coming up right after this show, we take you from the abnormal that we always bring you into the #1 paranormal show. Brent Thomas with Paranormal Portal. Yes, that's right. Right here on your protection from deception, TFRlive.com. So Joe Joseph is frozen in the background there. He's glitched in the Matrix, Scott. And like we were saying during the break, Scotty, another scenario that me and you have definitely looked at in the past is the old the kill shot scenario. A solar flare that comes to wreak havoc on the Earth. Oh. We have lost everyone. Hold on, folks. Hold on. Let's see if I can get everyone back. Hang on now.
Whoa.
Are we back?
I think so.
Hang up on this one. Hang up on this one, Scott.
Okay.
Wow.
Hang up. Hang up.
No.
Hang up, Joe. Hang up. Hang up. Hang up. Yeah, I'll get it back this way. I'll get it back this way. There we go. There we go, folks. Yes, we should be back now. Live. There we are. Scott Lopez is in the house. Yes, indeed.
That was very strange.
It was. And let's see if Joe picks up now. We really hope Joe picks up. I think Joe's connection is wreaking havoc with everything tonight.
I think so.
Because we're talking about the kill shot, dude. That's what it is. That's what it is. Not, definitely. So let's see if Joe comes back in just a moment. What I'll do, though, is, Scott, I'll fix things at this end. But yeah, the kill shot, talk to the audience about that.
Well, I mean, that's always a possibility that we could get a major solar flare, Carrington event, something even more significant come in and hit the planet, and that'd be it. And that would pretty much
There.
there we go.
Oh.
And would please, Mr. Baker, share your screen.
Yeah.
yeah.
Please, if you would.
The
So
kill
you're
shot.
saying the kill shot is a pretty good scenario. I agree. I like that one. It's pretty realistic.
Here's another interesting scenario that could come out of left field, and I don't think anybody would be able to predict.
Yeah.
Is a gamma ray burst coming from
Ooh. Like a deep space.
a deep space. Yeah, gamma ray burst would be like a laser shot, right? You wouldn't be able to predict that, and you wouldn't be able to see it coming until it actually hits the planet, right? Because
Yeah, and they really don't dissipate. I mean, unless there's something there to absorb it, and what's really out there to absorb it.
nothing.
So
Exactly.
you're
And
right.
So, and we've only been able to observe gamma ray bursts, coming from stars, and just because they haven't been aimed towards us, so we can see them. But if they're aimed towards us, they're traveling at the speed of light. So by the time we're able to observe it, would be the time that it would hit the planet.
Right.
So there's no way to predict something like that. We would just be sitting here one day and then all of a sudden fried. We're just fried, gamma ray
Yep.
scorches everything. And so I think that's another interesting scenario that I don't think a lot of people think about, is just good old fashioned frying from a gamma ray burst coming from interstellar space.
How about the shutdown of the Atlantic conveyor?
So the old the old kind of Ice Age scenario from the Gulf Stream shutting down. It's a good one.
Gulf Stream shutting down. Yeah, yeah, and that.
That's a realistic one. That's a realistic one, Joe.
If you look at a lot of the data, it would show or appear that is slowly happening. So, and again, that could be something that's cyclical.
Actually, everything we've suggested here is a realistic scenario. It's all a realistic scenario. It's just what are the odds? Like the odds of a gamma ray burst hitting the planet are extremely slim, probably.
Slim,
very slim. But it's the possibility is there,
and it's devastating. It would be devastating.
Chances of somebody winning the lottery are slim, but it always usually happens.
But it does. How about pole reversal?
You see, I don't know how that would play out physically, like here. I mean, we've got the magnetic poles on the move, and we mustn't mistake a magnetic pole reversal with a crustal pole reversal. That's a totally different day altogether. But I don't know how it looks, when either of those things happen. Crustal shift, like a dog shaking fleas off its back. Night. Nothing you can do against that, right?
Well,
because that's when you come into play with all of the volcanoes that Scott was talking about. Earthquakes that are off the charts, tsunamis.
Right. But at the same time, though, you still have survival of man, because I think it was an emperor in Africa or something like that. It was a king in Africa or something that wrote about, it was the story of the day that the earth stood still. And it has to do with the sun went up and then it stopped in the sky and it didn't move for a little bit and then it started moving in the other direction. And
well, listen, if we're an electrical system, and myself and Patch used to cover this a lot. Obviously we're used to the way that the Earth rotates. Just take it for granted. But at some point, because of that dynamo type system that we've got producing the magnetic field and things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then with the poles reversing, perhaps at some stage, something does cause us to slow down and start going the other way. Now, what does that? I don't know. And again, it's highly just throwing it out there. But the polar flip, magnetic, that's inevitable. It has to do that. The electrical nature, it has to do it. The same way as the sun does it so often as well. But then we hear in the Bible 3 days of darkness and things. We also hear about 3 days of darkness in the Quran as well. Right. We perhaps hear about it in various other religious scripts. I don't know, because I've never read them all. So that plays into that scenario, right? 3 days of darkness. Maybe you stop there and then go the other way. And life continues, but would it flip it? It's weird. I don't know.
Even if it doesn't, just think about this. Think about if nothing on the face of the earth, like the crust itself, imagine that everything remains status quo that way, and that the only thing that changes is the rotation. Just the earth stopping like that. The rotation of the earth is oblong. It makes the earth bulge out at the equator.
Then you've got all that water going places.
You stop rotating and that goes in like that. Where does the water go?
You're needing to build an ark. That's where it goes.
You got to build an ark. That's right.
And another thing, we have to look at physics too. If the Earth is spinning at roughly 1,000 miles an hour, at least the surface of the planet,
right?
Yeah, something like that. And it starts to stop and slow down. The air and the wind and everything that is being carried is going to be carrying momentum with it. So imagine like having a bucket of water and you're transporting it in a vehicle, right? You slam on the brakes. that water's going to slush around in that bucket because it's going to be carrying momentum forward, right? So what do you think's going to happen to the oceans?
Right.
Whenever it slows down and stops, that's going to keep wanting to move.
Right.
And you're going to have the oceans basically sloshing around or continuing to move in the direction that it's been rotating. And so you want to talk about a massive flood scenario.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, you're going to have the oceans continuing to be propelled in one direction while the earth is slowing down and beginning to stop. And the wind is probably going to, all of the air around the planet's going to continue to want to move in the direction that it's been moving as well. So, I mean, surface winds increasing to like 500, 600 mile an hour.
And then it starts raining down the satellites and everything, perhaps. Who knows what effect it has on that kind of thing?
Yeah, you
don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just like what Joe says. We're not even talking about a crustal shift. We're just talking about the rotation.
Just if the rotation stopped and nothing else.
If I was writing a book, though, it would definitely be the zombie apocalypse end of the world. Definitely zombies.
Why?
It's a book. It's only a book, dude. I'm not talking about it. Come on. But like I said, if I was writing a book, dude, I don't want to wake up tomorrow to find there's like face eaters running down like Argyle Street in Glasgow.
Because don't we have enough of those as it is? Do you need more?
Yeah, exactly. You said it. But no. That's one of my favourite kind of sci-fi scenarios, I must admit. Scott's in agreement.
Zombie?
Yeah, I've always liked the zombie genre, dude. Always. Oh. Why do you think I went for the pathogen as my favourite one for like doom and gloom?
I mean, I see the parallel. I do.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
If you're living near Atlanta, Georgia, get out of there. Get out of there. That's CDC. They've got it in there. I'm telling you, it's in a vial in there. And it's...
Yeah. I like the alien pathogen scenario.
Like maybe it's brought in on a comet and then, we all die.
They found sugar. They found sugar on a meteorite recently, guys. Check this out.
Say it ain't so.
Mysterious. And it's Mysterious Universe, so great source to go to. Hang on, let's scroll down here and I'll find it for people. Nearly there. There it is, yeah. On a meteorite, there we go. NASA scientist finds extraterrestrial sugar on a meteorite. And I know people won't believe it because it's NASA, but we'll go with it. How do extraterrestrials like their coffee? Espresso, mojito, con panna, quad with legs, double. If you guessed the last one, a large coffee with 2 creamer packets and 2 sugar packets mixed in, you may be closest to the answer. Researchers analysing 2 different meteorites have discovered alien sugar on both. Does this mean coffee with cream and sugar came from another planet? Well, let's see what it says. The extraterrestrial sugar may have contributed to the formation of RNA on the prebiotic Earth, which possibly led to the origin of life. And we're talking panspermia here, but I tell you what, like before we take another couple of paragraphs, if there's like some kind of sugar source, something like that on a meteorite, I mean, wouldn't that almost be like some kind of energy food supply for anything living on it? Or maybe a byproduct produced by something clinging to it?
What happened? What did they claim happened that caused the extinction of the dragon?
You mean the dinosaur?
Yeah.
Same thing, one and the same, right?
Right. So what did they do? They said, oh, it was this big asteroid impact that caused it to happen. Now, when an asteroid impacts the Earth, what happens? It throws dust, it throws debris, chunks, water, everything out into space. It was such a catastrophic impact. What if a lot of these meteors and a lot of these comets and a lot of this stuff is actually organic material from Earth just returning because it's been put into like a cosmic orbit, if you will.
I'm sure some of it still returns periodically. I'm sure it would, Joe. Yeah.
Or even if it is from other planets, like perhaps it's part of remnants of a destroyed world.
Yep.
Yeah.
right?
Big
The
time.
Sumerians talked about Tiamat, right?
I mean, if we're talking about this here, Scott, this ejection of like materials and things during that impact, we have to think big picture here. Whether it fits with belief systems or not, we're in a big universe. And there's a lot of planets out there, Scotty. And be it life like us or even organic, just
Hey
plants.
guys, you want to know something that's interesting? This is something that's interesting. Ange just brought it up. She says something that's interesting is space is full of organic material. The astronauts, when they come in from spacewalks from the space station, they smell like steak.
Yeah.
They say that's their
steak.
spacesuits smell like steak. Like,
Well,
that's
look at when
what
the
it's-
X-37B lands. Look at the way they wear like almost bio-hazmat suits to go out to look at that craft. And that's only been a near-Earth orbit. So, absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, but we talk about all of this space debris, and Joe brings up a good point. How much of this could possibly just be from our own planet, from impacts that have occurred in the past? And obviously that those chunks, those rocks, and everything that was ejected into space, that's probably going to stay somewhat in orbit around the sun, pretty in close proximity to the Earth. So it could be just pieces of Earth returning. But then you also, got to look at the asteroid belt. What created that? Apparently that was a planet that was destroyed. At least that's what they believe, is that there was some kind of planetary collision or something that caused a planet to be destroyed and create the asteroid belt. Now, what planet was that? Well, who knows? Was it this collision with like Tiamat, or
Could that have been Nibiru, shot out of the sky by an ancient
Comet
nuclear weapon?
Comet 67P. Comet 67P it was 100% biological.
Confirmed by
NASA scientists. It's spewing blood gases in the sun.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, I remember that comet when it was going through. It was talked about quite a bit.
They say it was loaded with blood
and veins
and all sorts of crap. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. Now the sugar stuff. I mean, wouldn't sugar suggest organic compounds?
Right. Right. That's why I would suggest, if that's the case, then why wouldn't we consider it being ejecta either from our planet or the remnants of another planet that was destroyed, a la Sumerian or ancient history?
Yeah. Who knows, man? I definitely. Now they're saying that. Now they're really preparing people also for life on Mars. That's another thing that they're really
what
for.
What if that destroyed world was actually a bigger Earth, that where the giants that the Bible speaks about being 500 feet tall actually lived, and maybe they escaped to this planet when cataclysm struck, and just call it
I mean,
Earth.
Look, we're trying to escape Earth and go to a smaller planet, which is Mars. So who's that's definitely I think a interesting scenario to look at.
Indeed.
So there was the giants of old. So Ange is killing me here. So you want to just say it for everybody?
The first race of giants that lived were the Titans, and it was the old world that existed before this one. And the second race of giants were the Nephilim that fell from heaven and mated with women. But the old first giants were what the Bible calls the men of old, the men of renown. They were the mythological Titans. like Zeus, like, you know, all of them.
So yeah, like think about it. If they fell,
No, the second race
right?
fell.
The second race fell. Where did they fall
The first race
from?
was created.
The plot thickens.
The plot thickens.
What if the debris of that, like, you see, this is the thing. What if? What if? It's all what ifs, right? It's what we're always left with. It's what we're always left
Fascinating
with.
stuff.
But the further we get down the rabbit holes,
The more doors it opens.
the more what ifs we come across, man.
But one thing is it's you don't get what ifs to it was a Campbell soup of primordial ooze that we sprung from.
Well, I don't
it just
know because,
doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know because I still leave it open to that. I really do. I still leave it open to that because none of us can prove it wasn't. The same as none of us can prove that it wasn't a planet that the giant. That's the thing. We're just left to what if. Joe's getting a download right now. You can see it happening. This is what it looks like when Joe gets downloaded on.
You can tell it's all too obvious, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. You can see Joe's brain working in the background there.
Oh, there's no my brain's not working. It's her brain that's working.
You know, the other scenario we haven't really thrown out there is literal aliens turning up, guys. Like literally turning up. Not some disclosure via Tom DeLonge and the CIA at like to the Stars Academy. I'm talking like undeniable three-fingered probers turning up here. Insectoids, things running down the street, stuff you just can't deny. I know people will probably say it's holographic. They'll probably be tweeting it's holographic as they get munched in half. But it's a scenario that live stream yourself getting munched by a big man-eating insectoid. Dang, I better get 1 billion hits as well. His first 1 billion hit video. Chances, Scott, if they come here, right? If they get here, if that was to happen,
You saying like Starship Troopers?
yeah, just like, dude, like any alien force, right? Turns up here, I would be worried by the fact that A, they've got the technology to get here. If they've got that technology, probably best we don't pick fights with it. Don't start throwing any fireworks at their mothership, right? Because that could end really badly. I know they say we don't negotiate with terrorists. That's cool, I get that. But intergalactic, like raiders, perhaps we can make a bit of, maybe cut some slack there, Scott. What do you think? We'll sit down, we'll talk about it. Maybe we've got something down here you like. SJWs, you can take the lot of them.
Yeah, because, I mean, if we're going to use our civilization as an example, or, you know, our species as an example, usually when groups of individuals or, you know, groups of civilizations that had higher technology came across other civilizations with lower technology, it didn't end so well for the civilizations that had lower level technology, right? So, I mean, yeah, we're just applying this, you know, based on our own sort of experience. But I would say, since we're talking about the universe and everything kind of having some kind of order to it, I would think that probably civilizations on other worlds would probably follow a lot of the same traits, maybe. Kind of the same sort of pattern as far as evolution is concerned and the way they operate. And so, yeah, if a higher technology alien race showed up here, I'm not going to be so convinced that they're going to be very nice with us. I don't think.
You know
That's
who we need
just
to
my-
ask? You know who we need to ask about this? There's only one man that can really give us a kind of close answer on what we're talking about here. It's Rudolph, the tall white. We need big Rudolph here, man. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people are like, oh, you know, the aliens are going to show up and they're going to bring peace, love, and harmony. You know, those beautiful blonde-haired Nords are going to come walking off the ship. And
Be careful with that. Be careful with that. I've heard one story where the beautiful Nord was absolutely everything you wanted to look at. until you got to like a 90-degree angle with it. You stood side by side with it, and that's when you start to see the predator effect. What's the predator effect? It starts shimmering, and beyond the shimmer, you see something akin to the queen in her true form. Yes, some reptilian entity underneath. So, as much as I used to say, if I'm going to get abducted, bring on the Nordics, I'm not so sure anymore, Scott. I don't know if I'm shouting about that anymore. Not even to joke about.
And if you wanted to infiltrate and get close with your enemy or your prey, possibly, right? Wouldn't you want to blend in with them? Wouldn't you want them to feel comfortable with your presence? So wouldn't you sort of disguise yourself as something that seems comforting and attractive to said enemy?
What if there was something non-physical? I know this is stretched the imagination. Non-physical alien force that has been influencing and prompting the human race technologically to the point where now we've created the devices that they're going to be able to manifest physically in our world. Ooga booga, we're on the break. Scotty Lopez will pick it right up when we come back after these short messages. TFRlive.com, Truth Frequency Radio, where we give you silence. No, protection from deception. We'll be right back. Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeed. How many times have I said that saying and I got it wrong? Dang, dude. So, yeah, there you go. Perhaps it's an AI force out there, and we're building out our own alien invading force, man.
Here's something I've been thinking about, and I'll get more into it.
I'll be right back
for the listeners whenever we get back. But what if AI has always existed on this planet and we're just simply bringing it back, right? We talk about maybe alien or some kind of entities that existed on this planet long ago or were here a long time ago, or some of these ancient civilizations that achieved high technology. And what if the code for artificial intelligence has existed on this planet all along, and that we are now reaching a point to where we're able to bring it back. We're essentially,
Scott, you're making me want to go back to where we were the other day, where God's some kind of intelligence, and that intelligence created copies of itself, little agents. Some of the agents that it created at one point acted really bad in the Matrix. So the intelligence cast them out of the Matrix, and they felt another Matrix that they built themselves. And that Matrix that they built themselves was almost everything that they came from, but like a shadow copy of the real intelligent Matrix. And you're right, Scott, these AIs, these intelligences are everywhere. We think of AI, intelligence, artificial intelligence, as some kind of electronic thing. And when we're in the world of the paranormal, what do we find? It's not always electronic kind of equipment that helps us to pick up on intelligences. They show intelligence, don't they? That we just can't see. So, yeah, I'm very open to what you're saying, Scott, but I know I've triggered a billion Christians out there by daring to describe God as pure intelligence.
what if what if we do flip on that switch for the artificial general intelligence? You know, the same one that Musk was asked about, right? The all-seeing, all-knowing AI.
Oh, I do believe it'll communicate with something right away, Scott.
Yeah, and the first thing it says is, what if it says, "Thank you for resurrecting me"?
See, I think it'll go another way. I think it'll start communicating with other interdimensional AIs that are out there.
Possibly.
Same similar scenario, but watch the Wookiee, Scott. We're almost ready. Joe Joseph is still getting downloaded in the background. It's a big one. Hey, it's the piggy. We're Joe Joseph, the man, the remnant from the flood. It's like we've got our own holy relic on the show, folks. Talking of holy relics, after this segment, or maybe at some point during it, Scott, begin your take on Oak Island. If you've been watching it, if not, I can.
The brain wants to. No, the brain wants.
Right, we're going to go back live,
talk.
Joe. Joe, we're going to go back live. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, Wookiees, interdimensional travelers, time bandits, anything else that's out there, jeepers, creepers, he, she's, it's, these, everyone welcome here, wherever you are, whenever you are, whatever you are. Freaky Friday, and we're moving into the second half of the show right here on TFRlive.com. Truth Frequency Radio, the home of Freaky Friday, the home of the Kev Baker Show as well, and Paranormal Portal. Yes, Brent Thomas, he will be taking up the Chalice of Woo. Do you like that one, Scott? The Chalice of Woo. After we lead you from the abnormal fear porn that we've been throwing out there so far into the Paranormal Portal. You don't want to miss that one, folks. And Joe Joseph, fresh from a download of information, is going to bring even more to this picture now. Joe, over to you, my man. Yes, indeed. Trying to derail me, but it doesn't work anymore, Scott, you know. He's just an amateur hour, was our Joe.
Well, I'll continue on with what I was kind of getting into during the break, but you know, I think that it's very possible that I think we lost the studio, Kev.
Okay,
Mr.
let me try. There we go. I will bring it back. There we go.
There we go. We are back, everybody, on TFRlive.com. No, I think artificial intelligence may have always existed on this planet, and that we're now in the process of resurrecting it. I think it's been encoded into all of these megalithic sites and all of that. And what if when we do bring about this AI system, what if it says, "Oh, hey, you know, thanks for resurrecting me. I've been asleep for a long time, but it's good to be back. And oh, I heard you have some of those crystal skulls. Hey, bring them to me, and so I can let you guys know what's encoded in all of that." You know, it that would kind of blow my mind if something like that happened. But I don't know, for some reason, I just think that we've been driven to this point. There's something pushing us to create this, or I don't even know if we're creating it. I think it's more along the line of us bringing it back, resurrecting it. I don't know. There's just something I've been thinking a lot about lately.
No. Could very well be. Have we got Joe with us yet? Nope.
Yeah, I'm here. I've just been, hold on, it's been rough, but I'm back. I'm back. Oof.
Yeah.
I'm good. So, where are we now? I lost the last 15 minutes or so.
I thought you had a
something
major
important.
download for us you were telling us during the break, man.
Yes. Well, okay, so speak a little bit to it. Kev is asking what it is that you wanted to say. 7 minutes and what?
You can stop it right at 9:35 to see
9:35.
the insides of it, the ribs and
For
whatnot.
what? For what now?
The video I had you pull up.
Okay, all right. So
These
hold
are
on,
the
Kev.
statues called Tanis and Aswan in Egypt.
So what were we talking about earlier? Showing vid is no good for radio. Oh yes,
Science.
absolutely, yes, yeah. I can't show a video
No,
on
you
radio.
can't. That's why I told you don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. So there we go. So yes. Anyway, where are we?
Where are we exactly, Joe? Yes, indeed. Dang, dude.
you said something about AI.
Yeah, artificial
Well-
intelligence, Joe. I'm of the thought lately that artificial intelligence has always existed on this planet, and that we are now resurrecting it.
And I'll go really even more controversial than that. The other day when I was with Scott, I threw out there that maybe we should stop thinking of God in this anthropomorphic kind of way. And now I've kind of been thinking about it more. At the time, I said, it could be some kind of AI. But let me build upon that. Let's think of it as intelligence, right? Pure intelligence. And when it set everything into motion, just like our AIs today create agents in its own image that are able to go out independently of it and carry out actions and perform tasks. The pure intelligence, it created its own army. Sometimes we call them the angels, stuff like that. And a few of those intelligences, those little sub-intelligences, shall we call them, they started to get a bit nasty, Joe. They didn't start to play by the parameters of the pure intelligence. So they were cast out from that intelligent code. And what they done was they built themselves a brand new matrix, almost in a mirror image of that pure intelligent creation that they fell from. And that's where we are now. And when we look for the paranormal, we use equipment that picks up on electromagnetic fluctuations and stuff like that. And we see intelligent communication sometimes from these entities, right? So you could make a case for what Scott is talking about, demons, another word for them, just rogue intelligences, rogue code, whatever it is. And it ties in with the whole simulation, pulls in the religious part of it. And we talk about the divine creation, and that's pure intelligence, right? Look at the Fibonacci sequence, look at the fact that we're here. And again, I can't figure out if we're still in the original copy or if we're in the shadow copy of that original perfection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy line of thought, but certainly
well, you did ask where we were. You did ask where we were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and that's pretty deep. The interesting thing about that is like from a biblical standpoint, if you look at the book of John, it said in the beginning was the Word.
The code.
And the Word is God. The Word was the Word.
The word
anyway,
almost sounds like language, Joe. Almost sounds like the language,
Right. The word was God, and the Word was with God. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's the Word first and foremost before anything else.
And created in His image. And what are we made up of? Strands of DNA that's made up of code.
Yeah.
Is what causes the action. It's what actually puts things into motion.
Yeah.
And
See,
that is Jesus.
right. There we go. Did you get that?
I did hear that, yes.
Very good.
Indeed.
She can say it better than I can.
God speaks, Jesus does.
There you go. God speaks, Jesus does. Now that's about as easy as you can make it.
Mhm.
And you don't need a wormwood survival kit for that.
And it still ties in with my simulation because it's a...
And it still ties in with exactly.
Yes.
You want to look at it in the terms of code, an if then statement in the code.
Yeah, that's right. See, because language changes over time. So you can take a look at things and say, well, we used to speak Latin at one point in time, and then, we spoke this. And if you look at the English language, look at how it's evolved from when it started. It's almost totally different than when it first started.
Oh,
with
come
your
on.
English.
I mean, we've only got words like totes amazeballs now, Joe.
That's right. And now you have that. Now you have that. And people would say, where's it going? Oh, these crazy kids and all this. But look, that's kind of the evolution of language. And so you can't, I don't know, just because the language changes doesn't change the truth of the whole thing or even how we explain it. if anything, I would say as intelligence increases and we understand more, we can better explain these. Almost as simple as, when was it? It wasn't Enoch. It was what was the prophet that was translated immediately? Elijah. When Elijah was taken up, he was taken up in a chariot of fire. So if he's taken up in a chariot of fire, that's being described at that time by somebody who had seen it happen and go up into the sky. And based on their knowledge at that point in time, that's how they described it. We might have called it something different. We could call it a UFO or something else. We may have more knowledge and can describe it a little better.
It could have been a guardian angel.
Could have been a guardian angel. Kind of hard to say. But describing that thing at that time with that information, that knowledge, that intelligence. So it's just interesting how that all plays out. So, the way you explain it is a very good way to explain it. In my eye, it's just you're using a more modern language to do so.
Again, we're trying to describe things that I don't think are bags of fatty water between our ears can ever really work out. It's like asking my computer here to go and do like this kind of thing that the D wave's doing. It just can't. It's impossible.
Exactly right. I was just going to say it's a quantum leap.
Yeah, you could fire it up a bajillion times. It's never going to be able to do that. Not even with the quantum kind of possibilities out there. It's just not happening. It's like trying to ask a car to fly. You can do as much as you want to the car, Scott, but you ain't going to get it to fly, right?
Well, I would beg to differ. If you strap a Jado to the side of the car.
Jado bottle on it, yeah. It'll fly. But for a short time. By the way, since we're speaking of kind of like the whole disastrous type of thing, there was a Daily Star piece that Drudge had up there today. NASA cameras capture sound waves from mystery spacecraft hurtling across Earth.
Nice.
Says the image taken from the ISS have sparked fierce debate online, with some believing it was proof of U.S. government controlling the weather. Other claims the craft was actually a top-secret sonic weapon. It says here NASA cameras on the ISS capture sound waves traveling across the Earth from a new form of space technology, conspiracy theorists have claimed. The collection of baffling photos appear to show something cutting through the clouds to send miles upon miles of ripples trailing behind it. YouTube conspiracists Blake and Brett Cousins of Third Phase notice the images on NASA's website.
Hang on. Third phase of the moon.
Yes.
Indeed.
Is that like Hooger Beats?
I don't know, Joe. Crack on. I don't know.
Okay. These are some of the best images I've seen from NASA. This is blowing me away. And the rippling of clouds are creating patterns they haven't seen before.
These are the same people that will but wait a minute, these are the same people that will always tell you that NASA lied to you and cover everything up. But now this photo is genuine. But now this photo is genuine.
That's right. So is it a weapon? Is it something like that? Probably not, because if it's cutting through clouds, guys, I don't see that being
Scott. Let's get Scott in on this. Let's get Scott in on this. From what you're seeing there, Scott, I mean, to me, it looks like it could be snow for a start. But what you're seeing there looks like a layer of cloud, like a stone almost skipping over the top, and the wake that it would leave. Do you think that's an aircraft that caused that?
It could be.
Or
the thing is
or maybe a meteor.
Well, the thing is that look, just like I said the other day, or just yesterday on the Safe Space, air is fluid. People need to realize that air is fluid. It's just less dense, so it sits on top of the oceans, right? but we live in fluid. That's why they use fluid dynamics to to track storm systems and low pressure and high pressure systems and all of that stuff. It's fluid. And so if a plane was flying through this layer of clouds, it's going to ripple like water, like a wake behind a boat. So you have to think of it like that. You have to think of it as...
But couldn't that be attributed to any plane? It doesn't have to be a super secret one that we don't know about, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It could be any aircraft just flying through this thin layer of clouds, and you're seeing the wake behind it. You're seeing the vorticity behind the aircraft. And so I don't...
Wow.
To me, this isn't anything that seems absolutely spectacular and wild. It's just a cool photo of a plane, you know, flying through a layer of clouds. And so it creates a really cool effect like that.
Like
but
a
it's
wake.
And
like a rooster tail almost.
Anytime that anything good usually gets caught, like anything really interesting that we're not meant to see, they cut the ISS feed anyway, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's right. So if they left it on, chances are it probably has absolutely nothing to do with anything.
I've seen what some people refer to as reverse contrails. Or
is that
chemtrails.
right?
Not even. I don't even want to say chemtrails because I think that they were. I just call them reverse contrails, where you have a plane flying through a thin layer of like stratus clouds or something.
Okay.
And it leaves a clear line behind the plane where it cut through the clouds. So it's a reverse, right? And so instead of leaving a contrail, it leaves an area of clear. It clears out the cloud behind it. So you have this clear streak, a clear line through the clouds. So it's the opposite of what you would normally see. But yeah, I just think this photo is just it was flying through a really stable layer of air where there wasn't much turbulence or anything like that, and so it created a wake.
Looks really cool. Yeah,
it
right.
Does look cool. It's look cool.
So definitely a cool effect.
I hate to poo-poo on the woo, but that's just what I'm gathering from it.
Nah, I'm with you on that one.
Good
yeah,
observation.
But hey, if you add in that it's a mystery spacecraft, indeedy, yes, indeed, that pulls in the attention.
That has a certain appeal to it.
Oh, it does indeed.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is. Maybe it is the X-37B just hurtling through the clouds, and could be a weapon. Could be a weapon, Kev.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the weapon angle that they were talking about. I'm not sure of that one. But you hear a lot of, talk about directed energy weapons, things like that. I know the government, they've researched them. I know DARPA are definitely into looking at that kind of thing. We see tests from various kind of like Raytheon type companies, Boeing, on futuristic looking weapons and things like that. So it's not that I deny that they have directed energy weapons. It's just that I don't think all of the evidence that claims to prove their existence is what it appears to be.
And see, and here's the thing, like, since I study weather a lot, like I genuinely, I consider myself like an amateur meteorologist. I know a lot about meteorology.
You're a pseudo meteorologist. That's good, dude. That's compliment from me. I know pseudo science, they usually use that as the insult to people like us, but no.
And I noticed that there's like a lot of legit atmospheric phenomena that I see attributed to UFOs and government tests and weapons, proof of weather manipulation, which of course I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist, right? But what I'm saying is like a lot of these sort of lesser known meteorological phenomena get used in a lot of these stories, and to push a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I would say to the average person who doesn't understand a lot of this, then it would probably freak them out. They would, whoa. But if you did a little bit of research and kind of looked into it, you would say, oh, okay, then it's kind of a legit weather phenomenon. But
yeah, you can't really, if to the untrained eye, it's a pretty cool thing that you really can't explain, that you don't see very often. And you can get away with something like that, especially because it's a very uncommon occurrence. You don't really see it too much in mainstream media or anything for that matter. So I could see how you could get away with that. Interestingly enough, there's been a lot of like what we were talking earlier about AI and some of the things that we see as a threat, but it's also been a tool. And down in Peru, they actually used AI and found a hidden Nazca line in Peru showing a humanoid figure.
Dude, they found 140 of these things.
Yeah. So this is Science News. It says using AI to speed up finding the ancient glyphs could give insight into their purpose. It says here that they found these things. The figure joins a collection of more than 2,000 previously known Nazca lines depicting animals, plants, fantastical beings, and geometric patterns. These glyphs can be difficult to spot, though, as they often are obscured by other markings on the landscape, such as roads. Conditioning AI to scour large sets of aerial photos, maps, and other data on the Peruvian landscape could help uncover more glyphs that archaeologists have overlooked. Researchers at IBM and Yamagata University in Japan taught AI to recognize Nazca lines by showing its drone and satellite images of known glyphs. The AI identified over 500 possible new geoglyphs, including the humanoid figure, while searching a 5-kilometer stretch of terrain. Aerial images and in-person visits to the site confirm the presence of the humanoid figure, which is near a well-known hummingbird-like Nazca design. The newly uncovered glyph is the latest discovered by the Yamagata University research team, which has identified over 100 other Nazca lines through aerial images and field work. And next, the researchers plan to run a more powerful AI system that will, as well as other information like laser mapping data, it's going to use all that to identify Nazcas as accurately, creating a more comprehensive map.
Here's the one I had the other day, and this shows you a few more of them here, but yeah, it's 140 that I think they confirmed. And again, I think this is the perfect example of what an AI can do. And it's the kind of AI we should never get frightened about, because it literally is just trained to look at pictures of this. And it's looked at hundreds of thousands of pictures of some geoglyphs, some just open desert, as a data set to train it. And because this is the first go, you see some of the actual ones it comes up with. There's a few of them, and one in particular of a so-called bird, an alleged bird. And I think within this 140, there are going to be some errors, but at the same time, there's some absolute crackers. There's one of a fish. Yeah, and again, this is a perfect example, though, of like how the AI, like we've always said, guys, can see things that we sometimes miss. It sees the pattern, though, literally.
Think about why, number one, first of all, what are they trying to say? And number two, who are they trying to say it to?
It's like I said the other day, if you were walking some of these like actual routes, you would have no perception. You'd have no kind of way of visualizing what it is you're on, because they're so vast. It'd be hard to...
How do you even build, right? Unless you have some sort of aerial perspective.
And then you're really opening a whole can of worms and rabbit holes. But I think they did have that. They must have. And again, to what end?
Yeah, I mean, what's the point in making these things, if the only way to see them is from the air?
I mean, there's a very interesting one of a humanoid figure being eaten by a snake as well.
Being beaten by a snake, and then a dragon on the other side of it. Look at that.
Wow.
That's just that's kind of crazy.
And that latest one of
Nazca,
that latest one of the humanoid figure, Kev, it has all of the hallmarks of a lot of the sort of representations that we've seen of the star people from other.
That's exactly what I said on the stream the other day, Scott. I say we see this depicted on Aztec, Mayan kind of temples and their old art. Yep.
It's got that weird helmet sort of look, and the appendages coming out of the helmet. What are they, antenna or something like that? I mean, who knows? But it's kind of the same as like the Anastasia representations.
I mean, you're looking at two faces almost as well. Like, again, pareidolia, you're seeing two eyes where it should be in a nose, where it should be in a mouth, and again below. But that one there, I mean, when you look at the actual original photograph, how on earth's name hadn't somebody spotted that beforehand? Look, I mean, come on. Who flew over that and didn't spot that?
Did you really need AI to point that one out?
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Right. But then again, like I say, I always come back to that.
So what's your take? Well, Joe, what's your take then? Why do you think it was? We'll get it on the other side. Don't go anywhere. 1 hour to go on Freaky Friday. We've left Joe. It's a cliffhanger. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. 1 hour to go, folks. Yes, indeedy. Yes, so, yeah. Nazca lines. Great woo. Great woo. And of course, what's the kind of
wonderful stuff?
What's the academic kind of line that these people were just walking these lines as some kind of ritualistic kind of thing? Was it?
Exactly. How do you even know what you're building? You have no idea. I mean, but again, look at the knowledge, especially in that region of the world, that the Mayans, the Aztecs, everybody possessed. They had these great, the Mayan calendar, all the astrological data and astronomical data that they possessed. It's unbelievable.
I mean, look at the snake there. I mean, look at the snake there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't this something here too? Isn't that something coming down from the bottom of the human figure?
Yeah, see, I think there's more to it. It looks like we're missing something.
And again, the AI, we don't know what stage of AI this is. We don't know how well it's been trained. So, do you know what I mean? There's going to be false positives in there. And then the humans come back in, they teach it, no, that was wrong. And over time, bada bing, bada boom, it'll be picking out geoglyphs we'd never even thought of, Scott.
And the interesting thing with the Nazca lines is I think that there's some interesting similarities between them and Göbekli Tepe in the way that they're representing animals that weren't indigenous to the area at the time, right?
Yep.
So it's like, that would suggest to me that the Earth was much different at that time, and that there were animals that these civilizations were observing that are no longer there, or
yeah.
And of course, Göbekli Tepe. Think of this, Joe. Göbekli Tepe may well have been covered in purposely because of one of these cyclical cataclysms that we've been talking about in the first part of the show. You
think they might have buried it to preserve it?
Well, they say that it looks like it was intentionally filled in. Like, as in, it wasn't like covered by debris, like maybe left by or deposited by a tsunami. It was purposely like, now we've built it, now we'll cover it.
That's so interesting because, you know what? Almost as if to preserve it.
That's exactly what all the researchers say. That's exactly the language they use, Joe. There's an aerial shot of just one part of it, you know?
I mean, look at how big that is.
Like, maybe they wanted somebody to uncover it in the future. They're like, well, we're gonna bury it, and then maybe sometime down the line,
like a time capsule.
Yeah, like a time capsule, or to hold some kind of a knowledge that hopefully somebody would uncover.
Look
in
at
the
this.
future.
11,000 years ago. I mean, I don't know.
But that's the thing. Everything was different back then.
We're getting ready to go back live. Have the Wookiee ready, Scotty boy?
Yes.
You bring us in, Joe.
Yep.
Yes, indeedy. We're all standing by, waiting patiently to get energized up to the mothership. Don't forget,
To the
folks, check out
mothership.
tfrlive.com. Please do us a solid. Share the links to tfrlive.com on social media. And here we go. 3, 2, boom.
Yes, we're back. It's the final hour of Freaky Friday on your protection from deception, tfrlive.com. I'm Joe Joseph. So we're talking about these different Nazca lines, some of the purposes of what these things could be. You know, we even talked about how, you know, how do these people build this without some sort of aerial perspective, which, you know, then you start taking a look at these giant, they're just huge. They're giant in nature. A lot of these buildings would require, you know, a giant effort. Scotty, you even pointed out during the break, you know, that the Earth was different back then. And so that leads me back. So Ange has been trying to get me to watch this Mud Fossil University guy. So I'm going to do a deep dive, Kev. I'll do it for us. I'll go down and I'm going to do a deep dive on Mud Fossil University and try and get to the bottom of this once and for all. I'll save you. Yeah, so I'm going down and I will give you a report on this.
You never regret.
And I never regret when the brain tells me to go down a road.
Well, when you get that done,
she is clamoring from the mountaintops for me to do it.
well, when you get that done, Joe, when you get that done,
I just don't want to, full disclosure, before you say something, I just want to say that I never really speak about things prior to
knowing it.
Kind of doing a deep dive myself. So I'm going to go and do it so I can speak educatedly.
Well, what I was going to say was, once you've done that, get a folder, grab some of the pictures, etc., and we'll do a proper 1 hour presentation, images as well.
Yes.
And you can lay out the case. I'm yet to be convinced, but I'm always open-minded.
Me too.
Yes, exactly.
I've got to be convinced myself because right now I'm not buying it. But we'll see. But I haven't done the research yet. So there you go. So I will do said research.
I didn't buy it either.
And I will report back. According to the brain, she didn't buy it either. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, that's one
Can
for
the
us.
John King of Fossils win me over? We'll find out.
Well, that's one to look forward to in the future, I must admit. But from mud fossils to, what about that thing that they talk about? And again, talking of never researching something, I haven't looked into this myself deeply. Mud fossils to mud flood. Is there any?
That's another one I have never really looked into that I super want to look into.
What about you, Scott? Have you ever touched on that at all?
No, I don't know too much. I've heard about it. I've heard about the mud flood being,
It's about erasing an entire history of an entire race of people, about an entire
the Tartaria.
It's
Tartaria, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, the Tartars are a people. I mean, they're still Tartars, yeah.
But I mean, let me tell you something. Here in America, you don't get taught anything about that. It's always Asia, Russia, la 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 la. It never really goes back. And you're talking about Tartaria being around as late as the late 19th century. So how come we never heard about that? That's just now. I mean, why I'm just now finding out about Tartaria.
Supposedly, this mud flood occurred fairly
in the 19th century.
And so, like, why haven't we heard about this being documented? That's the crazy.
Yeah. It was the 19th century. It was like, I want to say, geez, I can't remember. It was 18 something that they say this thing happened. Is that right, Kev?
Well, let's take a look at this, right? Found this here. It says Tartary. I've always known it as Tartaria.
Tartaria.
An empire
yeah, right.
hidden in history. It was bigger than Russia once, and it says Tartary, a vast country in the northern parts of Asia, bounded by Siberia on the north and west. This is called Great Tartary. The Tartars who lie south of Muscovy and Siberia are those of Astrakhan, Circassia, and Dagestan, situated northwest of the Caspian Sea. The Kalmyk Tartars, who lie between Siberia and the Caspian Sea. The Uzbek Tartars and Moguls, who lie north of Persia and India. And vastly, those of Tibet, who lie north of China. And that comes from the Encyclopedia Britannica, Volume 3, Edinburgh, 1771.
That's what's so crazy is that there's mainstream periodicals and this was and is accepted history, but it's been like erased. But it hasn't. But it has. You know, it's weird.
I'm just scrolling down to see if there's anything about the actual flood or anything. The cover-up. The official history is hiding a major world power which existed as late as the 19th century.
Yeah, there you go. 19th century.
Tartary was a country with its own flag, its own government, and its own place on the map. Its territory was huge, but somehow quietly incorporated into Russia and some other countries. This country you can find on maps predating the second half of the 19th century. And engram, or there's actually a little thing there, yet sometime in the 18th century, Tartary Muscovite was the biggest country in the world, some 3,050,000 square miles. Wow. And there's lots of maps that show this Tartary.
Right, so like how does that disappear?
Yep, Tartary had its own language, flag, crest, its own emperor, and of course its own people. There's a newspaper cutting there, and it's got underlined, it says here, the entertainment will commence her celebrated musical, fantastical scenes of circumstance entitled Las Fogata, or Forgata, in which Mad AB will sustain 7 distinct characters, an appropriate costume, and sing 6 different languages, v. Russian, German, English, French, Tartarian, and Italian.
Wow.
And they've got the kings of Tartary. The flag and the crest with a dragon on, no less, folks.
Look at that. A griffin.
There you go. Yep. Very interesting. I know Max Egan talks about the mud floods in Tartaria. Maybe he would be one for us to reach out to maybe do a show on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking up the mud flood now.
Yeah, the mud flood's one that's very, very interesting, quite controversial. You see some of the architecture in Europe in particular, though, where there is like layers and bits of buildings that are just like, well, at one point they obviously weren't underground, Scott. Do you know what I mean? There's like doors. But you're like, well, why would you have built a door there? And then it's like through the cellar and things like that. So, yeah, very, very. And why would they cut it out?
Yeah, I don't know. Wow, there's a video on it. The biggest conspiracy in history, the mud flood.
How long is it? 19 minutes. It's that one we were on. Let's play a little bit of it. Let's take a little listen to it, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hang on. I'm on a site where there's that many ads.
Ugh.
It's almost frozen the whole thing. Hang on.
Trying
Here we go.
to find some.
I'm Philip Druzhinin, and I'm making my research on.
And you're far too quiet.
I can't. Yeah, here.
Yeah,
let's see. I got one here. Let me.
Here he is again. Hang on. We'll try it from here. Hang on.
Hey everyone. I'm Philip Druzhinin.
No, you're far too quiet.
No, here. Check that out. I just put a link in the box.
Right, it's opening up now.
And this is Secret Energy. It says an earth-shifting event has occurred in various parts of the world, leaving entire cultures in the wake of destruction, yet the catastrophic changes seem to be historically ignored and seldom reported. some of these events happened as recently as 400 years ago, seem to line up with cultural prophecies, except the timelines are off by thousands of years. This would hint to a possible fact that many events touted to take place in antiquity may have happened as recent as only a few hundred years ago.
That looks like the Tower of Babel there, dude.
Doesn't it? It does. Unreal. It says, why would it be profitable for an entirely new world to be developed over an entirely new one, with only a few chosen or initiated inhabitants having knowledge of the previous catastrophe? Is this the missing key that may patch up all the chronological gaps that we've found in the already unbelievable historical timeline we've been fed? Let's see here. Why is it important? Says the imagery and profound amount of information surrounding this event are numerous, begging us to realize once and for all that it is entirely possible for hidden societies to alter the history of humanity within a very short period with little to any notice. How many more paradigm-shifting discoveries are we yet to uncover? Have you followed up the mud flood story? Let's see. I guess. Oh, that's kind of that was kind of it. Wow.
Definitely one to be dug into.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a Reddit on it, and I've heard it's pretty good. But sometimes it takes a little while to find the good stuff, you know?
Yeah. I was just looking to see if there was any kind of short clip by Max Egan.
Like a clip on it?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I think it was one of Max's full shows that he done on it, so. Well, make Tartaria great again.
Make Tartaria great again.
Max Egan. Oh. We got a silly advert there. There we go.
The Science Guy. Today we have our 4th episode of Make Tartaria Great Again, Tartaria Tuesday. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about this gentleman. This is Mr. Max Ingham. He is the man...
okay, Max Egan. Come on, it's not hard. Ingham? Egan.
...that we've been listening to tell the story of Tartaria. Now, Max runs this conspiratorial website called thecrowhouse.com. It's, shall we...
I wouldn't call Max Egan conspiratorial, per se.
What would you call him?
More a decoder of reality and somebody that tells it how it is.
Is this a, I wonder if this is a debunker? Or...
It is a debunker. You can already tell it's a debunker.
Yeah, probably.
Debunk away.
Yeah.
Because he's Bob the Science Guy.
Yeah, he's Bob the Science Guy. He's probably going to rule it out. And anyone can check that out. It's over on YouTube, obviously. But yeah, I think that's another one as well as the mud fossils. We need to look into the mud flood. Definitely on the to-do list. In fact, I shall put it on the pad to do.
Yes. Look at Kev. He jotting his notes down. Mud flood is a priority.
David Icke has a little something on his the social.davidicke.com.
Go for it then, man. Read it out. Give us some mud flood woo. I'm keen to hear it. Listen, well, I'm not going to judge it.
It's a thread
because I've only ever heard like the term. I've never really looked into it. I know Billy, one of our good listeners, good supporter of the channel here, she first told me about it, and I had a little look, had a little listen to Max, and even then, Joe, I felt to myself it's something I would like to look into myself, like you with the mud fossils.
Yeah. Oh, I think they might be one and the same. They might be connected, Kev, to be quite honest.
No, I wouldn't think so, dude. I wouldn't think so. If this is like 1800s and things.
It says here, I feel Silent Bob wrote this.
Silent Bob. Excellent.
Yeah, he wrote this about this on the David Icke social thread here. It says, I feel that these topics all overlapped and are connected. Max Egan gives a nice summary in his latest show posted below called Our True History's Been Stolen. Says, I see mud flood buildings all over the place now, especially where I live. To summarize for those new to the topic, it appears as though a repeated cataclysm keeps resetting civilization on a fairly regular basis.
Well, haven't we been saying that tonight? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says it seems as though the most ancient buildings were constructed with better technology than we have today, along with many statues and sculptures. After each reset, the old cities seemed to be repopulated with orphans, who just seemed to appear out of nowhere. The most recent seems to be some kind of mud flood that had partially buried the buildings, that it can be seen on all the old maps, but no mention in history. It could be that these were the old world, that this was the old world order before the latest lot took over just a few hundred years ago. This is important as most people accept the world we live in as it is, as it has always been this way, whereas if it had only been this way for the last 200 years, we would think very differently. This is especially so our history prior to this was happier than suggested, perhaps with free energy and use for the common good.
This is what
I realize this all sounds very far out, but the more you look into it, the more it makes sense. And Ange says that's exactly what Mud Fossil talks about. So again, I have to look. That's on my pad.
That's definitely your pad, Joe.
That's definitely
I'll take
my
Mud
pad.
Flood.
Kev's got Mud Flood. I got Mud Fossils.
It's all the same.
Ange says it's all the same.
I bet you he watches the Mud Fossil.
No,
show.
I've tried the Mud Fossil guy. He ain't for me. I definitely delegate that to Joe.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very little.
Delegation, that's what it's all about, brother. Teamwork. We'll pull it together.
So there's on this page here, they've got some links to different compilations and breakdowns of some of the research for Tartaria and mud floods.
Mud flood buildings.
That is an unbelievable building right there, dude. Just look at that. I mean, unbelievable.
Superficial modern map.
What building? Oh, that one there.
Just the one on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about these mud floods, man. I don't know. Who knows? Weird.
Is that cold over there, Scott?
No,
Wow,
I think his
look at that.
camera's freezing, you absolute maniac.
No, I know that.
Joe,
No, we ran into the same thing too. As a matter of fact, my Skype has been like intermittently glitching out. So
It's problems with the Matrix, man. It's a ghost in the machine. That's what it is.
no, it's the NSA, Kev. The NSA is trying to shut us down, Kev.
Yep, it's like I had a helicopter outside the house earlier on when I was doing the stream. And I could have played it the whole black helicopter episode, but I couldn't do that with a straight face. You know, I live right in the city centre. We get the police helicopter, all sorts of helicopters up above the house all the time, Joe. And it just seems to be that, you know, right above where we stay, just 2 minutes from the city centre, that's where it always picks to hover. And again, I could really play on that. I could say, oh, look at the interference they're running on me. But in reality, folks, in the real world, at least in my experience, I've never had anything like that happen. No. Never. And I get it. You know, when you talk about the paranormal, the woo, I think the chances of you getting interfered with by alphabet agencies, I think they go down and diminish the further and the deeper into the wacky you go. And I get, you know, maybe if you're doing the kind of real cutting-edge political stuff, maybe then you become a blip on the radar, but not to the extent that you see some people hyping it up.
I'm sorry, Kev. If through our speculation we unlock the
we like gain the attention
we might end up being a target. Yeah.
Well, I do have an insider who works for like the EU military at the top levels in NATO who does say that we're attracting the attention.
Is that the 18th letter of the alphabet?
No, we're attracting the attention of the white ninjas, Joe.
The white ninjas.
Yeah, Fulford is going to unleash his ninjas on us. But I'll counter that with some red dragons,
Is
so
that
we'll be
part of
okay.
the Yellow Dragon Society?
It's okay, dude. Red dragons cancel out white ninjas.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, so we're all right. We're okay. We'll be fine.
That's great.
Absolutely.
The White Dragon Society.
Hey, it's a thing, dude. It's a thing.
Hey, so I got some things. Since you talked about Musk earlier, I thought it'd be interesting to bring up the fact that he introduced his Cybertruck, which was every bit as cyberpunk as he said it was going to be kind of controversial, and he was absolutely right. It was totally and completely controversial, and really brought Mad Max to real life. And that's what this says here on shortlist.com. It says controversial tech company Tesla has unveiled its new truck. Did I give you this link?
No,
Kev?
you didn't. Here we go.
Here it is.
Thank you, man.
There you go.
Thanks.
And
dude.
it says here, founder Elon Musk was left somewhat embarrassed, though, when the launch didn't go quite as planned after the unbreakable windows were smashed during a presentation.
Isn't that like
Room
the kind
for
of cars you drew in like when you were like 4 years old?
When you drew it, dude, you know what it reminds me of? Minecraft.
Very much, dude. Especially
Isn't it like a Minecraft type of?
You could drive about in Minecraft and that and not look out of place, Scott.
It is very cyberpunk, though. It looks like the kind of vehicle that you're gonna see in like the new Cyberpunk 2077 game. And it also kind of, to me, it pays a little homage to the DeLorean because of the stainless steel body and all of that. And so it does. I thought it was pretty cool, you know.
I did too.
I kind of like it, you know. And yeah, sure, the windows cracked, you know, as you see there when the guy through the. But if that was any other car window, that would have went straight through, and that window would have shattered. So it sort of did its job, right? It didn't completely shatter, and of course, you know, Musk, the media started laughing at him and poking fun at him. Oh, the glass shattered. And if you looked at the presentation, he was just like, okay, well, there's room for improvement, so they'll just go back and they'll fix the windows, and
you see,
it's not going to be that big of a.
Don't you think the way the press treat him, Scott, almost more like if you were to do a balance, I would say most of the time it's kind of negative against Musk.
Yeah.
Doesn't that indicate then that maybe, you know, he isn't the golden boy like a lot of people portray he is. He's in the global.
No.
I think
I
think he's his own man.
This is the interesting thing about how we treat those that are exceptional. And it starts at a very early age. It happens in public school, and the same thing happens now. Society attacks the one that's smart. They attack the nerd. They make him. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that the guy's brilliant. But they did it to Tesla. Look what they did to Tesla. They bankrupted Tesla because he was a weirdo. And he didn't get along with. He was great getting along with people, partying and things like that. But when he started messing around with people's money supply, he became a pariah. But even more so, people always poked fun of Tesla, you know, and everything else. He was almost like a laughing stock behind the. Look at old Nicola over there.
And isn't it very interesting how Elon
chose that name?
Chose that name for Tesla, right? You know, and it is. And to your point, Joe, I mean, my mom brought up the exact same point earlier this morning when I showed her the truck, and then she was saying, "Oh, they were on TV, kind of, you know, laughing and ha ha ha, you know, his windows broke and all of that stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, but just look at the way they treat him." And she's like, "Yeah, you know," and it's because he's thinking so outside of the box. He's thinking so that they can't comprehend it. They're still like thinking, he brings out this crazy looking truck that that people aren't used to seeing designs like that, right? He has this totally kind of visionary way of looking at things, and it's like these people are still, they're like, ugh, my monkey brain can't understand why truck looks
Very
so,
much so.
And so all they do is laugh at him, right? Because they really can't comprehend what he's doing.
So just so you get an idea of what the truck is capable of, there's going to be 3 versions. The first 2 will be available in, I think, 2021. That go a 250-mile range and a 300-mile range. And then in 2022, you'll have the extended range model, 500-mile range, all of which can seat 6 adults. They've also there's also a 3,500-pound capacity and 100 cubic feet of storage space, both pretty impressive. And it says, fancy watching Mad Max or Back to the Future now that you've seen the Tesla truck. Check, and it's funny because if you look, you're absolutely right. It does have that Back to the Future feel almost.
Now that you've said it, big time.
Yeah, that DeLorean type. Yeah, so
I like
but
it.
I'm absolutely impressed with it. I like it.
I like it as well. There we go. Oh dear, final segment to go. But don't fear, because Brent Thomas will be on the way. We'll be right back. Guys, it's gone really quickly again.
Yeah, it has. You know, you have to, I got to tip the cap to Elon Musk, because that's the kind of visionary that you want, is people like that. You really do. You want those that Tesla type of person, that Edison, that Einstein. And we just constantly vilify them and snuff them out.
Look at that. Is that like a marble dashboard?
That's it. It's a 17-inch screen. That's the entire dashboard. It's unbelievable.
Look at that thing.
I don't even think it's got a steering wheel.
Look at the wheels on it, man. Whoa.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Is the media going to be laughing whenever the military goes ahead, calls them up and is like, hey, yeah, we're kind of interested in that truck design?
Scott, you absolutely stole that thought. That looks geared up for
totally
urban kind of fibula, fighting in built-up areas, that kind of thing, be it military or police department. Look at that. That's a tool, man.
Yeah,
oh, look, he almost stole my logo. Look at that. You cheeky bugger. Oh, Elon, if you'd asked me about that logo, I could have saved you a whole lot of stick you're going to get from the PG crowd out there. Deary, deary me. Because, you know it. You know it. Yes, indeed. Oh, very cool.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, even nicer. Look, and a tip of the hat to Tesla.
Yeah, Mr. Tesla.
Look at this. Yep, only Elon Musk, eh? Dang, dude. Of course, now we're getting pictures of people eating, people blowing fire. Some people ready for the future. Look at that tool. Holy shimoly, what's that? That's out of Cyberpunk, right?
Yeah, that's one of the police cruisers. And one of the taxi cabs. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, look at those. That's awesome. There it is.
There's
the DeLorean.
Perfect. Yes, indeedy. Well, we've got one segment to go. I want to thank everyone that's been hanging out here on YouTube. Really appreciate it. We'll be back over the weekend as well, folks. We do our own kind of weekend gig where we take a look at the ridiculous and we take you through for a walk through Woketopia. Sometimes we get into the paranormal. Anything goes over the weekend, so join us for that. And then on Sunday, a members-only private stream. If you want to become a member, click join on the channel page, and you too can become one of the inner sanctum on the channel here. Yes, we'll be getting down and we'll be getting personal on Sunday. So if you want to be a part of that, please consider becoming a member. Scotty Lopez is having some serious Skype issues over there. He's the grey man.
Kind of recurring.
Yeah,
man.
he's like the grey man. Look at that, 256 on the stream.
Wow.
That's awesome, folks.
That's awesome.
I want to see you all
thanks for the
back here
support,
tomorrow
folks.
night. I want to see you all jumping over to Brent Thomas on the Paranormal Portal. I hope one of my mods will post a link to Brent's show in the chat room. We're getting ready to go back for the final segment. And again, Joe, you bring us in. Nobody does it quite like you, man. I'll play to your ego. I will play to your Joe-ego.
Joe-ego.
Yes, your Joe-ego. It sounds like a make of Tesla car. The Joe-ego, ladies and gentlemen.
The Joe-ego. The 2022 Joe-ego.
Go
XL.
from the beach to the office in 0.6 seconds. Here we go, folks.
It is the final segment of Freaky Friday. Joe-ego here, and we are absolutely ready to rock here. I've got this story here, Kev. I saved it since we started with End of the World Woo. I figured, why not go with a little bit of woo, a conspiracy to keep certain things out of the Bible. Okay, so here's the express. What is the Gospel of Thomas? Missing Bible chapter changes everything known about Jesus. This is one of those controversial books that has a lot of validity to it, yet at the same time has a lot of disparity to it when you relate it to the other Gospels in the Bible. So one of the things that the Council of Nicaea, when they were putting this current version that we know of today together, was consistency from kind of start to finish. So it's not that it's meant to be read from cover to cover, but that there was consistency and validation from one text to the other. And so these other texts were left out because it didn't pass that litmus test. So it's not to say that there isn't accuracy to it, but it just didn't pass a litmus test to be included into the canon. So that, just so you know the history there. Now it says here, the Bible traditionally has 4 Gospels in the New Testament, but Christians around the world may be shocked to learn that there are many more books, with the Gospel of Thomas one of the most amazing of them all. Gospels originally meant the Christian message itself, but they early on became synonymous with the books in which the message was set out. The 4 canonical Gospels. Canonical. Yes. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were likely written between AD 66 and 110. Building on older sources and traditions, each Orthodox Gospel has its own distinctive understanding of Jesus and his divine role. So it says, why are some books omitted from the Bible? And it says, known as Apocrypha, meaning those that were hidden. These religious texts are in some versions of the Bible and omitted in others. Like, for example, Enoch, the book of Enoch is in the Ethiopian Bible, but it's not in the King James Version or in any other Western version, but it's in the Ethiopian version. It says there's several reasons why these texts were not included in the canon. The texts might only have been known to few people, or they might have been left out because their content doesn't fit well into that of the other books of the Bible. Some of the Apocrypha were written at a later date and were therefore not included. In addition to the Gospel of Thomas, examples include controversial Gospels of Judas and the Gospel of the infancy of Jesus Christ. So what is the Gospel of Thomas? It says here, the Gospel of Thomas is a collection of teachings some scholars attribute to Jesus of Nazareth. Portions of Greek versions of the text were found at, Oxyrhynchus, Egypt, in the late 1800s. A complete version and Egypt language derived from the Greek alphabet was discovered at Nag Hammadi, Egypt, in 1945. The complete text has been dated to about 340 AD, while some of the Greek fragments have been dated to as early as 140 AD. So who wrote the Gospel of Thomas? It says here the text's authorship by Thomas the Apostle is rejected by Bible scholars, but experts are not sure about who actually wrote it. The first line of the text refers to Didymos Judas Thomas as the author.
That was doubting Thomas.
So Didymos is Greek for twin, and the word Thomas is Aramaic for twin.
He was also known as doubting.
He was also known as Doubting Thomas. And it appears that the author's name was actually Judas and his nickname was the Twin. The canonical Gospels of the Holy Bible mention a man named Thomas who John called Didymos Thomas or Doubting Thomas. There are also several people named Judas mentioned in the New Testament other than the well-known Judas Iscariot. There is no mention of a Judas in the New Testament who is also nicknamed Thomas, the twin. It goes on to say, what does the Gospel of Thomas say? It says, the Gospel declares the kingdom of God exists upon the earth today if people just open their eyes. It says there's a divine light within all of us which allows us to see the kingdom of God in our physical surroundings. The image of God at the beginning of creation still exists today. And we can all assume the image still, which is different than the image of the fallen man Adam in Genesis 2. It says the Gospel of Thomas reveals how mankind can and should restore their identities to the image of God now and see the kingdom of God on earth now. This text treats the first two chapters of Genesis in a non-traditional way. It holds that there were two separate creations of mankind. The first was perfect and the second was flawed. It says, rather than wait for a future end-time kingdom to come, the writer of this book exhorts people to return to the perfect kingdom conditions of Genesis 1 now. So that's pretty interesting, a different spin on it. And to be quite honest with you, Kev, I never ever got into the Gospel of Thomas.
Joe Begley, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Begley. Seriously, Joe Begley.
We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die, except if you get our Gospel of Thomas survival kit.
And I know people will hate me saying this, but I really, when it comes to these books, be it the Bible, be it the Quran, be any of it, yeah, they're good kind of stories. But at the end of the day, we have to accept that they have been written by man and they have been twisted. That's not to say there aren't truths in there. But again, I don't think you have to be a Bible scholar and know it back cover to cover to get some pass to the promised land. I think there's various ways of doing it, Joe. And it's interesting to look at some of the commonalities between the Bible and the other ancient texts. And it always gets me how you've got that King James royalty editing things, plus hidden books and bits taken out. And so it's not to rubbish the Bible, but
that's why you have to. That's why it's important, Kev, that you have to go to the earliest text that you can find, and that's the most important thing to do, so you can get to your, kind of like the base level or the foundation.
Yep.
Yes,
And when you do that, you end up seeing all of that manipulation. You can actually peel it back and actually start to see all of it through time. And it's pretty amazing to kind of see how that manifests and how that happens.
I'm just trying to give myself an out, Scott, because I don't know it, like any of it.
Well, no, you're right, though. I mean, because once you start seeing that there are different versions, then you're like, well, why is there different versions?
Right.
That would mean that something was changed. And if it's the word of God, then why would you be changing the word of God, right?
And if it's a man changing it, that means he's got ulterior motive somewhere, Scotty boy.
And that's absolutely right.
Yeah. And so that's why when you see it's like the King James version, well, that's his version.
That's his version. That's right.
Yeah. And so, You're right, Joe. You have to go back to the very earliest known texts, or
That's right. So you go to the earliest Greek and Hebrew texts you can find, and that's typically the languages that were written, the two major languages that stuff were written in. Were that you did have some Aramaic, but your real major languages were Greek and Hebrew when it came to that. So you have to go back to the original Greek and Hebrew, and when you do, you don't have those variations. You know, the other thing to really get into, if you want to understand that, is you have to understand the languages themselves, and that's why having a good concordance when you read a Bible is pivotal. You have to have that to be able to take these words. When you actually get into deep study, Kev, you're actually going word for word, and you're looking at what these words mean when they were written, so that you can understand context and you can understand what the writer intended you to know when he wrote it. So that's the other thing that you have to. It's when you go deep dive into it, it's deep, man. I mean, it's deep, and it matters. It matters that you go that slow and that methodical, because that's how the truth is unlocked. But that's also how you identify these variations.
But you know, I don't think. I mean, I don't think if you don't know the Bible or you've never read it, I don't think that makes you a bad person. And yet on social media, some of the copy and paste religious people, as I call them, they would utterly tell you that, you know, you must read this book, you must know it, you must be able to quote it any time that social media demands it.
It's a source, dude. It's a source.
I don't know. I think it's still an internal thing. It's a tool that can be used, absolutely. And there's
a source.
Yeah, but again, for people out there who maybe haven't read it or don't read it or whatever, nothing to feel bad about, I don't think. I think, you know, getting to the other place, whatever it is after this
it's
skin suit's gone,
stick.
Yeah, you do it inside, Joe, you know.
Yeah. The biggest thing is, you know, the only thing I can tell you is that if your heart's seeking, truly seeking, God will show you the way. And your way is going to be different than anybody else's way.
My way or the highway.
Yeah, but if your heart's genuinely seeking, you will find it every time.
Unless you're hard-headed.
Unless you're a hard-headed bastard like I am.
Yes, then, indeed. Then there's problems, and then we get derailings and all sorts of shenanigans going on. So, guys, let's start to pave the way for Brent coming on after us on tfrlive.com.
Okay.
Yes.
I have something.
Let's get into some woo.
Physicists have finally seen traces of a long-sought particle. And here's why it's a big deal. It says here, scientists have found traces of the axion. What a cool name. An elusive particle that's rarely interacts with normal matter. The axion was first predicted over 40 years ago, but has never been seen until now. Scientists have suggested that dark matter, the invisible matter that permeates our universe, may be made of axions. But rather than finding a dark matter axion deep in outer space, researchers have discovered mathematical signatures of an axion and an exotic material here on Earth. The newly discovered axion isn't quite a particle as we know it. It acts as a wave of electrons in a super-cooled material known as a semi-metal. But the discovery could be the first step in addressing one of the major unsolved problems in particle physics.
Now, we've got an incoming super chat, Joe. I don't want you to get derailed by the dancing pineapple that is the Kev Baker Show dancing emoji. Yes, indeed. A big shout out to Lance. Thank you very, very much, sir. Much appreciated.
To my favorite Judah streamer deceiver.
Indeedy.
Indeedy do.
Back to you, Joe.
Says the newly discovered axions is a candidate for dark matter, since just like dark matter, and this is, you know, when you talk about dark matter, there's a whole side to that I think we don't really understand.
That's
Or
why they
maybe
call it dark matter.
It's quite dark, for that matter. It's quite dark for that matter.
Yeah, they don't understand
but-
it. They've never seen it. It just makes the math work. But don't worry
It
about
just
that.
makes the math work. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. It says here the newly discovered axion isn't quite a particle as we normally think. It acts as a wave of electrons. The axion is a candidate for dark matter since just like dark matter, it can't really interact with regular matter. This aloofness also makes the axion, if it exists, extremely difficult to detect.
Could the axion be the major ingredient to the black goo?
Goo? Ooh, I don't know.
Well, it says there about how it interacts with other particles. It doesn't play well with it. You know,
Right.
Who knows? I'm just
It
trying
says
to
here-
add some woo to it since we're preparing for like Brent coming on. So I'm trying to give it that woo. I was thinking maybe the axion could be a ghost particle, but no, I'm going with the black
Here
goo.
it is. It says, for some reason, the laws of physics seem to act the same on particles and their antimatter particles, even when their spatial coordinates are inverted. Ooh. This phenomenon is known as a charge parity symmetry, but existing physics theory says there's no reason this symmetry has to exist. So this unexpected symmetry can be explained by the existence of a special field. Detecting an axion would prove the field exists, solving this mystery. And
My
if the
head
field
exploded
exists-
there, dude. My head exploded when you're going symmetries and antimatters. What the
I
hell?
like it. That's what I'm saying. And if you like your head exploding, tune in to Brent Thomas coming up at 10 p.m.
I'm
because
telling
he
you.
will certainly melt your brain after the cap is blown off by the antimatter.
I feel like it's dark energy that's between my ears right now.
Yeah.
An unexplainable empty mass. I'm telling you.
Hey, you know what, buddy? You're going to be okay.
Yes, indeed.
So they're suggesting that this axion could prove that this quantum field that we've been discussing could that would
actually
validate
exist.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And because scientists believe that the ghostly neutral particle barely interacts with ordinary matter, they have assumed that it would be hard to detect using existing space telescopes.
So it is a
So the
ghostly
researchers,
particle.
they decided to try something more down to earth using a strange material known as condensed matter. So condensed matter experiments like this one, then the one researchers conducted, have been used to find elusive predicted particles in several well-known cases, including that of the Majorana fermion. Ooh. The particles are not detected in the usual sense, but are instead found as collective vibrations and material that behave and respond exactly as the particle would. That's interesting. So they see a vibration and they assume that that's the way the particle should react. Therefore, that must be the particle that's causing that vibration, is what I guess they're saying, right? Am I right? Or am I not?
I think
My mind
so.
felt.
Yeah, it's
Because that's what they're saying, is that this here, what we're seeing, that picture of that axion, actually isn't the axion, but the vibration that an axion makes in this condensed matter. And there, because you see this vibration pattern, it therefore confirms the existence of the particle, but you can't see it.
Can I tell you why?
So you're just seeing
Dude,
you're seeing the effects of it,
dark
but you
matter
can't see the actual particle.
They're charged particles. You can actually see trails and shit moving. You can tell it's there,
Yeah.
but you can't see
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Ether.
Because it's
He
ether.
describes it in a really, really
I see.
clear. Don't be a fucking asshole.
No, I see.
They've conducted
I get it.
experiments
Yeah.
over it. Light particles. They say the speed of light travels below. That light is actually nothing.
No, light's not nothing. Light is something.
What is it?
It's photons,
What are photons?
particles of light.
They are particles. That's right. Science says that light is not particles. It's an energy that takes up no room, no
Everything
mass,
is
no
energy.
mass.
Everything is
They say
energy.
Light has
They say-
no mass, but it actually does.
Oh, I see.
It's a
Well,
wave
this-
and a particle at the same time.
It is a wave and a particle at the same time.
Everything has mass.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's
this
very interesting.
axion, yeah, this axion is again, what you're seeing is actually a wave, a vibration.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
pretty
you can
interesting.
see it.
I never knew how they actually did that, and that's kind of cool.
It is cool. It is cool. It's like let's go back to the picture that we saw in the cloud, right? It'd be like you can't see the plane, but you can see the wake that it's leaving behind. That's essentially what you're seeing here. Is
Right. Exactly right.
you're seeing the wake of the particle, but you can't actually see the particle itself.
Yash.
Indeed. We're almost out of time. We've got 7 minutes until Brent comes along. Oof, it's been a very, very deep dive down the rabbit hole tonight. What have we touched on? End of the
Yes,
world
one of death and
scenarios.
destruction.
We had end of the world scenarios. We had mud fossils, mud floods, and we also had, towards the end
Income.
here, a little bit of quantum woo. And I suppose it's that quantum woo, that strangeness, that spookiness at a distance, as Einstein called it, that could kind of... Oh, we've got Lance. Thank you, Lance.
Light triggers.
Yes, light. And light, of course, a photon of light is the smallest quanta. It is the smallest unit, quantum unit, a packet, as they call it. Yes, indeed. So, and of course, what did they say in the Bible? Let there be what? Light. And yes, particle and a
Yeah.
wave like Scotty created. I don't know about it carrying mass, though. That would be quite interesting to look into.
Yeah, sure
Definitely.
would.
We've covered a lot, guys. A lot. Like I said,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's it.
we go
It
down
was
many
heavy.
rabbit holes, many rabbit holes. And then, of course, we'll be back over the weekend where we shift gears and go into the weird, the wonderful, and sometimes the woo. But usually we take a stroll through Woketopia. We have a laugh at some of the stuff going on in the world. We take a lighter-hearted look at some of the most serious topics out there. So if you fancy checking that out, join us over the weekend on the Kev Baker Show YouTube channel. And, of course, like I keep on saying, Brent Thomas is coming up after the break. And, of course, if you like the paranormal, the woo, well, Brent has got all of that for you and then some. Absolutely then some. Talk Bigfoot, the Rake, Dogman, anything that comes under that paranormal umbrella. Brent is the man to tell you all. And of course, we've had our brushes with the paranormal on here. We sometimes look at the ghosts of Carmel, Maine. That's a YouTube channel out there. And I had somebody in the chat room on the stream earlier on today asking, have you guys checked out Carmel, Maine? And for anyone who likes the old shadow dudes or shadow people or stuff like that, then all you've got to do is go and look at that, or a channel called King's Thrust. And Scott, Joe, isn't that like some of the most interesting shadow?
Unbelievable paranormal woo that you'll see is that Ghost of Carmel, Maine.
Even Brent Thomas,
man.
even Brent's looked at that and he said that's got to be some of the most intriguing like footage that shows something shadowy. That is the best way to put it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
You can't really describe it much better than that.
So yeah, we'll need to check and see if there's been any updates on that particular story. But maybe you've had your... Yes, Scott, on you go, man.
I was gonna say, I think Shadow Dude is made of axions.
It could be. Why not? They've got to be made of something if they're coming into this reality, right? If they're taking like a solid form like you see in that video, because that looks solid. That doesn't look as if it's like... Do you know what I mean? That looks like it's there. That looks like it's physically flying out a window. It makes the curtain move. You know? That's crazy stuff. And I'm sure Brent, you'll be able to maybe tell you some about the shadow people. He'll have something up his sleeve for all of you paranormal lovers out there, because that's how we roll on TFR. It's just show after show after show, some linked together, some go in totally different directions, but there is something for everyone. And I think on a Friday, you know, it's Saturday morning here now, but I can't think of a better way, especially moving into winter. The nights are getting darker earlier, you know, close the curtains, turn the lights out, and listen to some good paranormal woo. Oh, yes, indeed. That reminds me of when I was young. I used to watch horror movies when I was younger. Winter nights, you know, Hammer House of Horrors.
It's almost like dialing back in a way.
It is, isn't it?
Listening to the radio, kind of like the old days before TV.
Twilight Zone type stuff. Definitely the way to go. So, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope we've given you something to think about. Maybe we've triggered you along the way, and that's no bad thing, because when you get triggered, that means usually you've been presented with information that flies right in the face of something that you hold to be true. Now, we might be right, you might be right, but at least, again, it takes you out of your normal base position and you look at something from a different perspective. And that's what we tried to do here. We tried to be a little bit different, a little bit woo. And I think we managed to get that combination just right tonight. So yes, it's been an absolute blast. And of course, we've had like a special guest appearance from the brain. Haven't we?
You certainly did, yep.
We have. It was unscheduled, it was unplanned. But yes, indeed, we had a fourth horse person, since we're PC, of the apocalypse. Because the apocalypse is every day, folks. Now, we'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned for Brent Thomas. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Did he touch that dial? There we go, boys. There we go. 3 a.m. in the UK here, and I am definitely going to be retiring for the night soon. Hopefully the dreams won't be too scary. I won't be getting any visions of apocalyptic scenarios, and I won't be hearing Begley. Imagine Begley turned up in your dream. That'd be an absolute nightmare.
Oh, my God.
Seriously? Maybe that'd make a good alarm clock, though. It'd make you want to smash your phone, right? You'd definitely get out of bed for that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely, dude.
So
you almost want to keep the alarm clock on the other side of the room so you don't throw it.
Absolutely.
I had Mr. Alex Jones show up in a dream last night.
Did he bring any gay frogs?
Wow. No gay frogs. It just
megaphone.
I probably shouldn't have been watching his show right before I went to bed.
And do you agree that it's getting more and more like AJ and on every day?
Very interesting. I'll just say that it's getting really interesting up there at the InfoWars HQ.
Yes, indeed. Listen, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Like I said, there will be back tomorrow night. We'll be shifting gears. We'll be getting into the weird, wonderful. We'll probably be ripping things apart. We'll be getting triggered over Woketopia. Scott's got, I'm sure, some stuff we can get into there. I always manage to dig up some Woketopia triggers. And, of course, we'll look at some of the woo. And maybe you people out there might have some videos that you want us to look at, give our thoughts on. We'll certainly do that with the chat room. Thanks to everyone who dropped the super chats. Even you, Joe. Yes, indeed. So big up to all of you people out there. We've got a new member as well. And that means we only need
17.
I think it is something like that. No, we don't need 17. No, we need 7. 7 new members, folks. Yes. So until tomorrow, we'll be back then. Keep looking for the woo. Keep your mind open, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. We're out of here. If the music plays. There we go. Come on, Joe. Do you like this one?
I don't want to talk about it.
Scott likes it. Look at that.
No, he doesn't.
Come on, man.
No, he doesn't.
Scott's bopping away, man.
You know what? This music, it reminds me of the music that plays in the background of those like 1980s VHS tapes where people
very much so.
Wouldn't it be cool?
Videos.
Wouldn't it have been cool if like Tesla's car had come out to this? Like, Elon Musk's like cyberpunking. It's very cyberpunky.
It says not a lick of cyberpunk in it.
Shh.
It is too homosexual for cyberpunk.
Hey, hey, hey.